In a city consumed by flames, a young woman paused her battle to speak to her friend Hyun-su. Listen carefully. If I can't make it back, use this chance to return to the starting point. The girl opened her inventory and handed something to her friend. The item she handed him was a branch with a melted clock, an item called distorted time, which could only be used once, causing a critical error in the flow of time and sending the user back to the past. Not wanting to believe she was saying goodbye, he asked why she had given him the item. The girl ignored the question, commenting, "You and Naiva, you two really suit each other. She was your first constellation, right? Don't give up, so let's stop here. Remember, if you go to the past, pray to me and bring him back." The girl wanted that in her next life, her first constellation would be the one to pray so they could fight properly. Confused, Hyun-su asked why she was talking about a next life. The girl kept talking, planning that in her next life she would be able to climb at least 20 floors with the wish she had made. Hyun-su, not understanding, asked her to at least explain the plan. However, the young woman just smiled. "Don't worry, Appa. Trust me, I'll come back safely." Even knowing it was a lie that she wouldn't come back, she said her goodbyes. "See you soon." Hyun-su would regret letting her go for not holding on to her as long as he could, because Hyun Harbin's last farewell promise was not kept. One day, while construction workers were working, a portal appeared in the sky. Paying no attention to the portal, they watched a girl who seemed to be working hard. However, one of the workers commented that she worked at the potion factory, so she was usually diligent anyway. Even so, the worker called out to the girl, "Harbin, work smart, not hard." The girl, upon hearing the advice, waved to the pair of workers. "You saw how hard I work, so give me a bonus." 5 years before this scene took place, countless portals had appeared and monsters had invaded Earth. At the same time, people known as Awakened began to appear. When they fought against monsters, they were called hunters. Because of this, the existence of social classes based on work, education, and family support disappeared. Only the hunters began to prosper in society. But this had nothing to do with certain people. Even with the change in the structure of society, the gap between rich and poor still existed. Those who had not awakened had to make a living by doing portal cleaning jobs or working in potion factories. The girl named Hyun Harbin was also one of these people. While she was drinking water, one of the workers asked if she had received the message sent earlier. Saying she had been busy, Harbin asked what it was about. Opening a notification window, the worker revealed that the portal would close soon, so it was better to leave the area. Being advised to pay more attention to notifications, Harbin apologized. "I'll be more careful next time." The girl was extremely frustrated. She didn't understand why she was the only one who didn't have a stats window, system windows, alerts, or anything like that. Even though she was a player like everyone else, those things never appeared for her. Constantly, she had to pretend to see a system window, even though she wasn't awakened, fearing she wouldn't be able to get other jobs. After taking the monster carcasses outside, the workers said their goodbyes to each other. As Harbin slung her bag over her shoulder, she said goodbye, but before leaving, she asked the senior if he had seen a certain person. Asking if she was talking about her own brother, the man said that if he saw him, he would let her know. Under the afternoon sun, Hyun Harbin checked the job fees for the next day on her phone. Even though she wasn't awakened, Hyun Harbin had to juggle 2 or 3 jobs for a reason. 5 years ago, after being caught in a portal accident, Harbin lost her parents and her brother disappeared. Because of that, she had to leave school to earn money and survive. She was constantly trying to buy information from hunters to find her brother, so no matter how much she worked, it was never enough. Looking at her apartment from a distance, she complained angrily, "The house is unnecessarily big." Harbin could have sold the house earlier and moved into a studio apartment. However, she couldn't leave that place behind because she was still waiting for her brother to return. Such hopes were starting to drive her crazy. She hoped that one day she would be able to stop with this foolishness. The world had changed, but her house remained the same. Harbin wanted to believe that she would be welcomed home by her family when she returned. She pictured her father having tea and welcoming her, just as her mother prepared food with a smile. She even imagined her brother eating pizza and leaving leftovers for her. Her brother shone in her thoughts. "Ah, I ate all the leftovers in the fridge too because I got hungry." When Harbin returned home, she froze upon seeing her brother sitting on the sofa talking about pizza. That wasn't just a thought, it was real. She wondered if she was hallucinating, talking to herself, if she had finally gone mad. Harbin jumped on her brother, grabbing him. "Are you really Hyun-su?" The young man smiled confidently. "Then it was worth coming back home. My beloved sister welcomed me so passionately." Harbin lifted her brother up, asking why he was home after disappearing for 5 years. She kept yelling, arguing with her brother for not contacting anyone, but soon noticed something. Grabbing her brother's shirt, Harbin realized that the fabric was extremely, highly expensive. She became irritated. "You won't fool my eyes with casual clothes. That stitching, those details, and even the hidden tag on the shirt. This is a shirt from Alumni's special casual collection, made for double S-rank hunters." Hyun-su was shocked to be found out by his sister. Still surprised, Hyun Harbin asked if her brother had awakened. Hyun-su tried to dodge his sister's question, but she pressed on. She wanted to know if he was working as a hunter. Hyun-su had to face his sister, saddened that she had never heard anything, always believing he had completely disappeared. Thinking about what his sister had done, Hyun-su revealed that he had already requested the cancellation of the search mission she had initiated to find him. Hyun Harbin put her hand to her face, wondering why her brother hadn't shown up. Thinking his sister was crying, Hyun-su approached to comfort her. However, Hyun Harbin furiously punched him. Hyun-su felt his life flash before his eyes. His scream echoed throughout the neighborhood. Hyun Harbin furiously argued with him. Do you have any idea what I went through? If you were alive, you should have let me know. I quit school to look for you. I worked day and night to pay off the family debts and put food on the table. Still on the ground, Hyun-su claimed he didn't know they had debts. Hyun Harbin was furious to the core because her brother hadn't cared about her. Hyun-su tried to say that there was a reason he hadn't come back. However, Hyun Harbin didn't want to hear his excuses. Quickly, Hyun-su raised his phone, showing a notification. He had transferred 10 billion won to his sister. Showing the amount, he asked if that would solve the debt problems. Hyun Harbin put her brother back on the couch. She sat down next to him, and her attitude changed completely. In life, some things don't need to be said. My brother really went through a lot. Coming back safely is what matters. Worried, Harbin asked if at least the money was clean, without fees or other problems. Changing the subject, Harbin wanted to know everything about her brother. How he lived, what he hunted, who he was affiliated with. Smiling, Sue said that if he told her, he'd have to take the money back. Just that comment made Harbin lose all interest. Remembering that his sister had asked for something, Sue said he had left it in her room. Harbin was confused, wondering what it could be. It had been 5 years ago, so it was something she had already forgotten about. As Hyun-su stood up, he asked his sister to consider the item a birthday present. I went through a lot of trouble to get this, so don't sell it. Seeing Hyun-su heading toward the door, Harbin asked where he was going, only to hear that he was going to work. She was surprised and worried, asking if he would come back. She tried to run after her brother, but Hyun-su said he would contact her later. With that, he closed the door, leaving his sister behind. Even though she felt that something was suspicious, Harbin couldn't figure out what it was. When she got to her own room, she found the item on her bed. There was a box there, emanating an extremely dark energy. She was afraid that something might happen if she opened it. She imagined that big problems would come. She supposed that it was an item. For other people, a notification window with the information would appear. However, for her, it was a pity. Without seeing the various warning notifications that popped up one after another, Harbin approached the item. Could my brother really give something dangerous to his precious sister? Harbin approached the item mainly because her brother had said that she herself had asked for it. Various qualification warnings to obtain the item, as well as errors, began to appear. Even the notifications themselves were malfunctioning. As soon as Harbin opened the box, a golden light appeared and the seal of what was inside was released. The light enveloped the girl, who received notifications for the first time. Communication is necessary. A special system window is being provided for Hyun Harbin. Harbin didn't understand what was in front of her. There was a notification with a request. You have accessed the forbidden constellation Arzar. Do you wish to acquire the forbidden constellation? Harbin couldn't believe she was able to see a stats window. Analyzing the notification, she looked at the sword inside the box. This must be the usurper sword Arzar, right? She gritted her teeth. Did that bastard trick me? When did I ever say I wanted something like this? I never asked for a sword. I can tell just by looking at it that this isn't a normal item. Getting back to the main topic, Harbin searched the internet about constellations. Awakened individuals who are linked to a constellation achieve much greater accomplishments and feats compared to ordinary awakened ones. A constellation is something that only an extremely small minority of awakened individuals can obtain. The identities of constellations are diverse, including spirits, gods, stars, and heroes. Harbin found a list of awakened individuals with constellations. However, she didn't even know the first person on the list, the world's #1 ranked hunter, the owner of Niaiva, the only sacred relic-grade item on the entire planet, Fides. He never took off his mask anywhere, so his identity was unknown. Because of this, rumors about who he was were constantly spreading. Harbin figured her brother must have left the item behind by mistake since she had never asked for it. As soon as she decided to close the box to return it to her brother, the notification changed. Did you choose to acquire the sword? She was confused. The sword's light shone even brighter, and new notifications informed her that she had acquired the item. The user's profile was updated and an awakened record was being created. The praying sword floated in the air in front of Harbin. Immediately, several alert notifications appeared before the girl, who was able to see them for the first time. Overloads and errors were continuously occurring in the system. The world seemed to go mad, and the books and papers scattered around the girl's room began to fly. Harbin tried to calm the sword. I understand. Calm down. Don't destroy the whole house. I still haven't finished paying the rent. While the notifications went wild, the calculation was completed. Rabin's first statistics window appeared. The girl's level could not be checked. Her class was Guardian of Deceit. Incredibly, she had 2.14 billion in all stats, although they were inactive. Being forced to participate in that world, she would acquire abilities by advancing along a forbidden path. From then on, the administrator system would be hostile toward her for that reason. Traumatized by everything that had happened, Rabin asked if she couldn't cancel it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, the Statue of Liberty was bathed in sunlight. In one of the apartments in New York, someone welcomed Fides. To think that the #1 hunter would visit the country, we are deeply moved. The hosts informed, in a video made for the hunter, that the hotel offered the best possible service. After watching the video, he rested, feeling embarrassed. Sitting on the sofa and placing his artifact beside him, he sighed, wondering why he had to attend a meeting in another country. Taking off his mask, the young man revealed his face, complaining about the sweat. The naiva next to him commented, "That's why you always ask me why I wear a mask." Using the transcendental form of a woman with purple hair and a halo behind her head, Naiva asked if he wore the mask just to look cool. Naiva, the thoughtful staff. One of the 7 most powerful constellations, and the only sacred relic rank constellation in the world. That was the only memento the young man carried from Hyun Harbin, from his first life. If it weren't for that, Hyun-seo would have thrown the staff away a long time ago. The memory of his past life never left his mind. His sister's deceitful farewell. Even knowing that would be the end, he couldn't bring himself to say goodbye. He always wanted to stop her from leaving. His sister, Hyun Harbin. Naiva argued with the young bearer. Rabin seemed very upset. Seo knew why. It was probably because he had disappeared for 5 years without saying anything, leaving her worried. However, he never imagined it would take so long to obtain the Ahezer. Besides, he wanted to avoid altering the future as much as possible. Naiva agreed. It would be better to live under a different identity and get everything in order before approaching them. The constellation just wanted Rabin's anger toward her brother to subside. 5 years ago, when he went back in time, Hyun-seo found himself in a temporary shelter. The item he had used to return to the past really could only be used once. As he walked through the shelter, he soon spotted his sister, still alive. Just as he was about to run toward her, a notification appeared in front of him. If he revealed his return, the system administrator would become his enemy. Because of this, he decided to go find Ahezer and silently beg that his sister could wait for him. He felt like the system was mocking him. At least Hyun-seo could trust Naiva. He wondered if it was only because they shared their memories that everything seemed fine. At least now that he had returned, he could send messages to check on his sister. Hyun-seo remembered something curious. Rabin had said that he would reach a negative rank if he started with Ahezer, but that just seemed like a joke. He had never seen anyone with a negative rank before. However, Rabin had actually become rank -1. She was staring at her stats window. She couldn't believe it. Is this really real? Suddenly, Rabin heard a voice. Yes, this is real. Startled, she couldn't believe the sword was talking to her. The sword Ahezer was quite polite. First of all, thank you for saving me. I thought I would be sealed away forever. Ahezer was surprised to be grabbed so suddenly. Rabin was planning to put the sword away. I'm sorry, but I'd like to cancel the contract, so goodbye. The sword became desperate when it heard the girl. No, you can't cancel. Never seal me again. The seal has already been broken, so sealing me again will be difficult. However, the girl didn't want to keep the sword, which made the being try to convince her. I've already been registered as your constellation. You can't cancel your first constellation. Rabin looked for help on the internet and discovered that the first contract was the strongest. From the second one on, there would be restrictions. The first constellation needed to be made carefully. Only from the second one, which would be considered indirect assistance, could the bond be broken. The girl fell into deep sadness, which made the being irritated. Why do you hate me? It's strange for me to say this, but I am the strongest among all existing constellations. Rabin, narrowing his eyes, said that he could see the stat windows and it didn't seem to be as the being claimed. However, Rabin started searching for more information in the system. Ahezer was in fact his first constellation. Ahezer was revered as the Lord of War, the most powerful being from the first world that was destroyed, Al-Raiden. He had been the leader of the 7 sacred relics, but was stripped of all status and sealed away for an act of treason. Rabin knew the name Al-Raiden. That name was often associated with legendary items. Upon discovering that the sword was the leader of the 7 sacred relics, she wondered if the sword could also be of sacred relic grade. However, she realized something and looked at the sword. Didn't the other constellations turn against you? The sword looked sad. It's because I committed a crime against the administrator system. In order to prevent the world from being destroyed, I tried to stop it and paid the price for it. Worried, the sword asked the girl to act quickly to prevent the imminent destruction and to stop the administrator system to save the world. Rabin, however, wasn't so thrilled with the sword, which, although powerful, was in exile. She decided to assume that the sword was telling the truth. If we can't stop the administrator, the world will end. Let's just say that becoming stronger is a good thing for now. But the moment my power is revealed, the system and all the constellations will become hostile toward me. And I still have to prevent the destruction? Facing penalties and dangers? Is that even possible? The sword had no answers to these questions. Sitting down on the ground, Rabin asked when the world would end. After thinking for a moment, Areza revealed that it would happen 30 years after the sign of destruction appeared. Remembering that the world had changed 5 years ago, Rabin asked if they still had 25 years left to prevent the tragedy. Confirming that the girl was right, the usurper sword figured they would have enough time. The girl then stood up and declared excitedly, "Then, I'll do my best for the next 20 years. The sword thought the girl was talking about fighting evil, but Rabin ran to the door. "I want to do everything I want before the world ends, so I won't have any regrets." Trembling with worry, Arezar tried to stop her. "Are you going to let that overwhelming power rot away?" With a smile, Rabin asked if it was the sword who was going to use it. Trying to convince the girl, Arezar asked if she didn't want to become the strongest person in the world. The girl revealed that, some time ago, she really wanted to awaken so she could find her family. However, her only family had already appeared, even if it was suddenly. Looking for another reason, Arezar asked if the girl didn't like money. The girl raised her phone and showed her bank account. "I really love money, but I suddenly received 20 billion today." The sword was left speechless. The girl in front of it was looking at her phone with greedy eyes. "With this, I'll be able to live and fulfill all the wishes of my life for the next 25 years. Thanking the sword for revealing when the end of the world would be, Rabin said goodbye. Wishing the sword good night, Rabin left it alone in the dark room. Arezar shouted in frustration. Even though she was a sword, she cried, wondering what she should do. On a sunny day, Rabin faced yet another ordinary and boring day at school. Behind her, a boy sighed. I wish something would happen in my life, that it would turn into a fantasy game, or that a portal would open and we'd enter a hunter's story. Rabin looked at her classmate Tae-seo, asking if he wasn't tired of reading the same thing every day. However, the boy could only think about how fun it would be to live in a story like those in the books. Rabin was faced with the question, didn't she feel the same way? Without a response, Rabin looked out the window at the peaceful sky. However, something appeared in the sky that was previously sunny. A portal. A large hole gathering energy for its dark end had appeared in the sky. Before the two students could react, red dragons, bone monsters, and all sorts of creatures began to emerge. Rabin stood up in fright when she saw the monsters. Afraid, she called out to her friend, "Hey, Kang Tae-seo, can you see this too?" The young man was focused on something else's statistics window. The boy who dreamed of being in a game-based world had his wish come true. That night, when she got home, Rabin received a phone call. On the other end of the line, the officer informed her about her parents' disappearance. With her parents missing, Rabin worked hard to become a hunter. However, no matter how much she screamed, no statistics or quest windows appeared before her. Day and night, she wondered why it wasn't working. After giving up on everything, what Rabin had to face when she came to her senses were the family debts, the loneliness of being left alone, the pressure to survive, and the doubt of whether she could make it through even one more day. Reality was cold. Waking up on her couch after recalling the past, Rabin seemed to have made a decision. The room was dark. Only the television was on. Rabin got up, stepping on Arezar before she could say anything. Rabin's gaze was cruel. "You, without permission, want to casually investigate my personal life?" Sweating nervously despite being a sword, Arezar tried to make excuses. "I wasn't spying. It's normal for a first constellation to share their memories." The sword tried to calm Rabin down, attempting to warn her what would happen to the floor if she kept pressing on it. As Arezar had warned, the wooden floor of the house broke. The sword tried to shift the blame, but Rabin was too furious. "I awakened because of you. That's why I can't control my strength." Even though she needed to fix the floor, Harbin picked up her phone, as she had other things to take care of first. Meanwhile, at a table covered in documents, Hyun-su was using the computer. He sighed, tired, deciding to stop working since it was late. Naeva suggested that he get some rest. As the head of a hunters association, she saw her contractor busy even at home. Curious, Naeva asked if he was enjoying his double life. She still couldn't understand how a lazy human, who only watched television on the couch while resting, could have such a troublesome job organizing hunters internationally, as well as the associations in each country. The young man reminded Naeva that, as soon as his sister grew up, he could take a step back. He wasn't busy just because he wanted to be. Naeva couldn't believe it, since he was one of the key figures in the Spez Association and even the boss now. She stared deep into his eyes, questioning, "Is it really necessary to work this much?" While the two were talking, Hyun-su's phone received a message. The young and strange little sister was arguing with Hyun-su by sending a barrage of messages. Hey, you said you were going to text me. What is this sword you left behind? It keeps talking about the end of the world." It's crazy about wanting to save the world. I don't want a gift like this. Drag your heels over here and take this back. Reading the messages, both Hyun-su and Niaiva were left speechless. By properly analyzing the messages, the hunter understood that his sister had safely managed to break Arizar's seal. However, he didn't understand what the problem was, since last time his sister had gotten along so well with the sword. Curious, Niaiva asked what was going on. Not knowing what else to do, Hyun-su said he would return home to find out. Downcast, he knew he would get a scolding when he got back. Arizar, in her spiritual form, resembled a small ball of fire. She explained to the girl that the reason, according to her own memories, for being an enemy of the system was that it must have been a mistake from the start, since she had never been able to see a stats window. Arizar saw the girl's power as abnormal. Even though it was powerful, it should have been impossible to possess so much power. You must be experiencing an overload because of the error. Arizar was shocked to see that the girl wasn't paying attention, and told her to pay attention when someone was speaking. Harbin was talking to his manager, asking him not to give him any more shifts. Never again. After contacting everyone and quitting his jobs, Harbin was able to stretch enthusiastically. I'm so happy. Now I need to live even happier until the end of the world comes. The sword tried to get Harbin's attention, but the girl didn't want to listen. Grabbing her phone, she hurried to sign up for a streaming service, something she had never been able to do before since she never had any money left over. After signing up for her first television service, she looked for a Manhwa service. Not understanding anything the girl was talking about, Arizar tried once again to remind her that the world was in danger, but to no avail. The girl pushed the little ball of fire away, telling it to listen carefully. I've already done the math. After paying the bills with the money I received, I'll have a generous amount left for daily expenses, leisure, and even to spend on luxuries for 25 years. Could I really spend that much money so freely, even if I got married? I couldn't even watch television. Now, all those years I spent pretending to understand what people were saying about popular dramas will be well compensated. Arizar's expression turned somber when she saw the girl only wanted to watch television. She didn't think it was the right time for that. While Hyun Harbin was trying to impose her will on Arizar, she heard her brother announce his return. Upon hearing that someone named Hyun-su had arrived, Arizar changed her mind. Arizar remembered that the girl had said that this person was the one who had turned her in. Arizar almost cried, hoping that the expert Hyun-seo would rescue her like a savior. However, as soon as Hyun-seo entered the room, Harbin threw him against the wall. Even though he was caught off guard, the young man felt an immense sense of calm. Holding the sword in his hand, Harbin ordered him to explain what that gift was. Hyun-seo sighed, revealing that he wanted to tell but couldn't. Pressed against the wall, Hyun-seo tried to break free, afraid of his sister. Harbin, what kind of bad habit is this that you've developed against your brother? His simple comment made Harbin furious, to the point where he had to apologize and politely ask if they could talk. Harbin didn't let him go and asked if the sword was something from the Inconfinata or from the organization he belonged to. Hyun-seo revealed that the sword had nothing to do with his work, reminding his sister. I told you this was something you asked for, didn't I? It was a package with your name on it that arrived a long time ago and said it was to be delivered to your house. I forgot about it and only just remembered, so I brought it. Frowning, Harbin asked how her brother had sent a delivery package if he had been missing. Seo gritted his teeth, as he couldn't think of any other excuses. He simply pretended not to understand. Oh, that's true. How was the package sent by me? Annoyed, Harbin asked where and when he had sent the package, but he replied that he simply didn't know. She asked what he meant by having obtained the sword with great difficulty, but he made up the excuse that he had trouble showing it. Faced with so many excuses from her brother, Harbin tried to figure out if he was lying. Seo was confident in his acting, since he had the experience of 2 lifetimes. What's the problem? Is there something wrong with the sword? Believing that her brother really didn't know anything, Harbin wondered how much she could tell him about what had happened with Arizar. However, the sword spoke for her. The world is going to end. Help me, Hyun-seo. Harbin was shocked to hear the sword speaking to her brother. How can you shout that for the whole neighborhood to hear? Arizar had a plan. All of humanity needs to know about this. Annoyed, Harbin threatened the sword. Ignorance is bliss. You'd better watch what you say or I'll seal you away somewhere no one will ever find you. Even with the sword silent, Harbin kept scolding it. Did you even consider that I could get hurt if things went wrong? We don't even know who is friend or foe anymore. Annoyed, the girl told the sword to pay attention, because being strong wasn't everything. Maybe that's the reason you failed in your previous world. After Harbin calmed down and told the story to her brother, Hyun-seo pretended not to know anything. Having ordered a pizza to calm his sister down, Seo stayed in character by claiming that the end of the world was crazy. Pretending to be curious, he asked when the world would end, and Harbin revealed that the sword had said it would be in 25 years. Hyun-seo pretended to be surprised. Oh, so it's not going to end anytime soon. Harbin shared the same carefree attitude, while Arizar grew irritated. That kind of nonchalant attitude is the real problem with humans. That's why you don't protect the environment and just pass the problems on to your descendants. Eating her chocolate and pineapple pizza, Haben nodded in agreement with Arazar. Curious, Tae-seo asked if his sister was just going to rest. Haben revealed her plans, to play games, to do whatever she wanted. Tae-seo figured his sister was planning to do a lot, and soon she started listing them. I'm already behind on my dramas, I need to catch up. I also want to visit some restaurants, and then there are my hobbies. Understanding his sister's intentions, Tae-seo stood up. Seeing that he couldn't help with anything, he planned to leave. But in a hurry, Haben stopped him. Afraid, Hyun-seo sat back down. You don't have to call me big brother if it makes you uncomfortable. Do you need anything? Scratching the back of her neck for acting so strangely, Haben admitted she felt a little bad for calling him so suddenly. Haben asked him to at least keep her awakening a secret, as she wanted to live a peaceful life. She sincerely asked him to help her with this. Hyun-seo was left speechless by his sister's request and by remembering what she had gone through while he was away. All right, it's not like I would go around spreading things about you or anything like that. After Hyun-seo left his sister's house, Naeva appeared to him. Seriously? You're going to back down? With his head down, Hyun-seo thought about a few things. Before entering his sister's house, he already had it in mind that Haben would fight against the system once again. Thinking back on how he spent 5 years fighting to obtain Arazar, on all the hardships he faced to reach the top rank, he had hoped that his sister would at least help him a little. Just as he was about to open the door, he heard his sister talk about her dreams, about how even subscribing to a streaming service was expensive for her. Hearing how she had lost so many years and wanted to get them back, Hyun-seo backed down. Little by little, he began to understand how his sister had lived, unable to enjoy what others enjoyed, without a moment to rest. Thinking about his past life, Seo imagined that by now his sister should have reached global rank 1. But the reason she hadn't managed it this time was because he ended up with Naeva, which was originally supposed to be hers. The butterfly effect caused both of their lives to change drastically. However, this was something that the Hyun Harbin from the past had asked him to do herself. Seo couldn't be blamed. Naeva couldn't understand how the boy could be so inconsistent. Either apologize or don't be embarrassed. Seo decided to blame his former sister for making the request. He didn't just blame his sister but also her damn informants. Whenever he looked for information about her just a little, so as not to draw attention, everyone said she was living well. Frustrated, Hyun-su sighed, never having imagined that his sister led such a hard life. Curious, Naeva asked if he would return empty-handed. Seo intended to honor his sister's wishes. However, Naeva reminded him that without someone as powerful as Rabin, the chances of saving the world were slim. But Seo cared more about his sister than about the destruction of the world. As Hyun-su's constellation, Naeva warned him that he was talking nonsense, but he responded lightheartedly. It's not like the chance of saving the world is zero without her, right? Naeva, however, was left speechless, as she couldn't lie. She was so excellent in judgment that her nickname was the weighing staff. Her calculations were extremely precise. However, faced with a young woman who had finally managed to catch a break, Hyun-su refused to throw her into the middle of a battlefield. Naeva watched her contractor with a curious look. Having read his thoughts, she ended up surprised. Seo also knew there were no guarantees they would succeed even with his sister. Instead of clinging to false hopes, he wanted to accept fate and let her find happiness. Following the young man, Naeva warned, "We might succeed this time. The Hyun Harbin of this round possesses an extremely strong power." However, Seo disagreed, recalling that both the planet Al-Raiden had failed and that Earth had also failed once before. He didn't want to force his sister to do something, even if she was extremely strong. Confused, Naeva asked if the 5 years Seo had suffered had been in vain. However, with a smile, he contradicted her. "I didn't suffer. Thanks to Hyun Harbin, who brought you to me, I reached the top spot, and now I'm just letting life take me wherever it goes." Seo reminded the sacred artifact that it wasn't him who had suffered. Even so, Naeva warned him, "You can't cover the sun with a sieve. If that girl has such potential, sooner or later the world will find out." Unexpectedly, a letter had already been sent by the government to Hyun Harbin's house. Curious, Razar asked what it was, and the girl revealed that they were asking her to retake the awakened test. She crumpled the letter furiously. Her dark expression could destroy whoever betrayed her with just a look. Frustrated, the girl revealed what would happen if she didn't go to the exam. Not only would she receive a fine, but she would go straight to prison. Razar was shocked to learn that they would be treated as criminals if they didn't reveal their powers. He became extremely excited. This country does its job very well. They don't let those who hide their powers get away. Rabin was furious to see Rezar go against her. Crossing her imaginary arms, Razar told her to obey the law. Slamming the table furiously, Rabin insisted that she had always been a good citizen, but Rezar shouted nervously, "Don't lie!" Rabin sighed, knowing how desperate the government was to control as many awakened as possible. The girl nearly tore her own hair out, asking if she couldn't have a little freedom just because she had awakened. Rizar rejoiced at seeing the girl so distressed. Thinking for a moment, Rabin remembered that if she used a debuff potion, she could reduce her stats by at least 300 points. However, as soon as she opened her stats window, she remembered that her points exceeded 2 billion. Downcast, she asked if there was any way to escape and not be discovered. Rizar rolled his eyes at how determined she was to hide. Looking through the now crumpled paper, she read a section about actions taken against Awakened for security reasons. She immediately opened the Hunter's Wikipedia, searching for information on the subject. She found out that the Awakened Security Management Act had been created after the Portal Crisis. The military power possessed by the Awakened surpassed that of any nation. Because of this, after the Portal Crisis, awakened individuals often committed terrible acts against forces without equivalent powers, leading to a period when the world became a lawless zone. Rabin remembered very well that this had happened 5 years ago. Continuing to read the article, she discovered that the lawless era came to an end when the current world number 1, Fides, appeared. Fides, who possessed overwhelming abilities, sought out and purged awakened criminals and bandits. He publicly supported the social systems of democratic nations, protecting the human rights of people who were not awakened. Rabin discovered that he also created the Awakened Examination System to prevent relentless attacks from malicious awakened individuals. After finishing the reading, Rabin stated grimly, "Rezar, the time has come to use the power you so desired." Rezar was excited that they were finally beginning to take action to prevent destruction. However, he was frightened by the look that was directed at him. With a grim look, Rabin stated what they were going to do. "This guy named Fides, we need to destroy him." Elsewhere in the city, unaware of his sister's thoughts, Hyun-seo put on his mask. "All right, this time I'll play the role of the older brother. My little sister wants to play, so I'll let her play." Whatever. A video of a conference had been published. In the video, the speaker was none other than Fides. Even if the world has changed, human values must be protected. Here is the result of democracy, safeguarded by the blood of countless philosophers, sociologists, and activists over a long period of time. If there is any outlaw who tries to overturn this history with the law of the jungle, I will not forgive them. Robin felt an inexplicable sense of rejection in Fides' speech. Since the December speech, Fides had come to be revered as a hero of all humanity. Without him, it would have been difficult for Korea to regain its status as a nation. The Hunters Association also would not have been able to reorganize its rules in such a systematic and transparent way. In short, Fides was a hero to all of humanity. Rabin felt that the wiki article she was reading was full of fan worship. At the very least, she thought he was a good person. Rabin sat down on the floor, remembering that Fides was called the hero of humanity. Despite that, she saw him as an enemy. Because of him, Korea had been able to create a law that allowed awakened people to be confined without even considering what they thought. Rabin threw herself onto the floor, throwing a tantrum like a spoiled, whiny child, wanting to live her life in peace. Small tears appeared in the corners of Rabin's eyes, who just wanted a little break to breathe, the freedom to hide her powers. She cried because she couldn't play video games or watch dramas. In the end, Rabin found it quite suspicious that this Fides worked so hard as an apostle of justice. She immediately got up, wondering if there was something going on behind the scenes, like in dramas, where the straight-laced young man is actually corrupt. The one praying was unsure about Rabin's thoughts, but she quickly explained that it was just common sense. There was always some family plot or something like that involving people like him. He might act like an apostle of justice in front of everyone, but at home maybe he steals his sister's snacks or something like that. After searching for so long, Rabin ended up frustrated for not discovering anything about Fides' real identity. In any case, she wouldn't be able to change the law even if she found him. Confused, the one praying asked if Rabin couldn't threaten this Fides just like she had done with him. Acting humbly, Rabin reminded him that there was something called human rights. In response to the girl's words, the one praying asked why she had treated him badly, and immediately got his answer, "You're not a person." Putting Fides aside, Rabin began to think about how she could hide her powers. That's when she received a message from her brother. "Among my acquaintances, there's someone who hides their power." Rabin began to read the list of tips. Change the class name, make it private, or find another way. Energy leakage is easier to hide the better your control is. Rabin didn't believe that this was about an acquaintance of her brother. It was far too specific to be someone else's story. At his house, Hyun-seo suddenly felt his ear itch, and next to him, Nieva ordered, "Go wash that dirty ear." Annoyed, he insisted that he washed it every day, asking if Nieva didn't wash hers. In her apartment, Rabin opened her statistics window. The young woman's class was called Guardian of Deceit. The class description was practically an insult. "You, who deceive the entire system and walk a forbidden path, are a hypocrite like no other this world has ever seen." Looking at the class name and its description, Rabin thought about the skill that allowed her to disguise her class name. She considered her brother's idea for a moment and decided to change her class name first. Reaching out her hand, Rabin used the Deceiver's Wish skill. Immediately, a strong energy filled her status window. Soon, the class that was previously called Deception Guardian was changed to Magic Swordsman. That was a common class. Then, Rabin told Rezar that it would be more convenient this way. Next, she asked the sword spirit how he would like to appear. The girl gave a few options. A baseball bat? An axe? It's really okay, even if you choose something weird. Rezar's eyes nearly popped out of his body, reminding the girl that if a magic swordsman carried something like that, it would be even stranger. Taking out her phone, Rabin showed some pictures, telling Rezar to pick one. On the girl's phone, there were several different swords. Seeing that he would be turned into a sword, Rezar was furious for having been teased earlier, making Rabin burst out laughing. Picking up the usurper sword, she asked if they could start. Raising the luxurious sword and using her skill, she transformed the item into an ordinary sword. Rabin also reminded Rezar not to speak when they were outside, only when she alone could hear him. Sad for having received such an insignificant appearance, Rezar lowered his head and obeyed. Looking at her stats, Rabin wondered what she should do with them. With the wish ability, she could change them, but she was still afraid of being discovered. Annoyed, Rezar just wanted to fight against the administrator system. The girl tried to cheer up the sacred sword. We won't give up. They say that if you know your enemy and know yourself, you will win 100 battles. However, Rezar was desperate to fight the system, to the point of lashing out at Rabin. Just reveal your powers. Don't be so dramatic. Wanting to have the worst possible rank to live a peaceful life, Rabin cast Rezar's spirit far away. Thus, the protagonist Hyun Harbin, aiming to uncover the principles behind the Awakened tests, immersed herself in all kinds of research and official patents. As a result, Hyun Harbin was able to discover something extremely important. By the end of the afternoon, the girl found out that magic-sensitive stones would be used for simple tests in public institutions. Browsing the internet, Harbin discovered that, although the simple method was the standard, it was possible to request a more detailed method. She couldn't understand why anyone would do that. With extremely tired eyes and an almost decrepit appearance, she wished to go with the simple method and live a simple life no matter what. Seeing how exhausted the girl was, Rezar recommended that she go to sleep first. Banging her head on the table, she wished she could find a way to hide her stats. Looking at Rezar, the girl asked if the sword knew anything. Immediately, Rezar turned away, claiming not to know anything. However, the girl's gaze was fixed on the sword spirit's neck, which began to sweat. Rabin could tell that Rezar was hiding something. I've already figured out that lying isn't one of your strong suits. With Rezar constantly denying it, Rabin smiled, reminding him that he couldn't play dumb since she could see his stats window as he was her constellation. Rabin found out that Rezar possessed the Concealment art skill, a technique that allowed one to hide their presence and aura to avoid revealing themselves. A basic skill for a martial artist. Rabin couldn't believe that Rezar had kept this hidden from her. Making up her mind, she stood up and confidently declared, I will definitely master this skill before the test. In contrast to Rabin's excitement, Rezar showed a feeling that was completely the opposite of hers. A few days later, the day of the test arrived and Hyun Harbin went to a decrepit public health center with cracked and dirty walls. An ordinary and quiet place. Inside, the place was quite organized, in stark contrast to its exterior appearance. Confused, Hyun Harbin looked at Rezar, who kept muttering, This is impossible. No way. Rezar was crying as she shouted, I'm telling you, this is a skill that's impossible to master so quickly. What kind of human are you? Ignoring Rezar's tantrum, Hyun Harbin cheerfully followed a man who called her over to the testing machine. The machine looked like a multi-parameter monitor. It measured heart rate, blood pressure, among many other things. However, attached to it was a small glass globe with a stone inside. As she observed the machine, Harbin wondered how much she should hide. Beside her, Rezar was crying continuously. Harbin knew that erasing her presence would be good, but if she did it carelessly, from the machine's perspective, she might not be recognized as a person. It would be a problem if the machine judged her as an inanimate object because of excessive concealment. Wanting to reveal just enough of her presence to seem like an ordinary person, Harbin placed her hand on the globe with the stone. As soon as she touched the glass sphere, Harbin saw energy being released from the stone. Unexpectedly, the magic stone began to shine intensely, to the point that its light filled the entire office. The brightness that appeared was so strong that Harbin had to put her hand in front of her face to shield her eyes. Before they could do anything, the measuring machine simply exploded. People outside the office were startled when they heard the explosion and felt the building shake. Harbin closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, she saw that in front of her there was only smoke and twisted pieces of metal. Rezar was amazed. Wow, that's an incredible amount of power. Harbin couldn't understand why the machine was so weak. She just wanted to rest at home, but she had greatly overestimated the scanner. The girl put her hands on her head, facing her great mistake. Quickly, an employee ran into the room asking what had happened. He rushed over to see the machine, not understanding what was going on. Behind him, Haben pretended to be clueless, while sweating and cursing internally. While the girl ground her teeth, the prayer celebrated, because her powers would be revealed. Seeing the destruction that had occurred, the young nurse asked if she was okay. However, the girl replied differently, "It's broken." With the evaluator growing confused, Haben used her acting skills to argue with him. "How can you bring me something defective to test my powers? What are you doing with my taxes? And what if I had gotten hurt?" The prayer frowned, because even if the machine exploded 1,000,000 times, she wouldn't get hurt. In the end, the officer believed Haben and arranged for a new inspection at a different laboratory. At the next inspection, Haben made a decision to hide her powers to the point of pretending she wasn't even alive. Before she realized it, confetti cannons were set off. Several people surrounded the girl, congratulating her for achieving an A rank. Haben fell to her knees on the floor, screaming desperately. "No way," she cried, insisting there must have been a mistake, a malfunction in the machine. The people around her were confused, thinking they had scared her with the confetti. Some tried to approach her, attempting to cheer her up for having received such an amazing ranking. They couldn't believe the girl was actually upset, as if she had been expecting an S rank. What Haben didn't know was that one day she would regret having screamed like that in front of everyone. On that day of the test, although Haben was desperate, the examiner was intoxicated with happiness. On the way home, Haben cried until her eyes were swollen. Lying in her bed, she said goodbye to her easy life. Beside her, the examiner couldn't understand what the problem was. Getting up, Haben explained that they had avoided the worst-case scenario. There could only be 5 people in the highest rank in the world. The triple S rank, 50 in the double S rank, and about 1,000 in the S rank. If Haben had fallen into the double S rank, for example, when someone looked up the ranking list, they would see everyone drop down 1 position to make room for her. Haben explained the reason why she was, at least, relieved. Since from rank A downwards the number of awakened is huge, the ranks don't really make sense. So we can at least guarantee the barrier of anonymity. Picking up a piece of paper with some information, Haben commented that, even so, there was no real freedom, especially for someone in rank A. Everyone who was at least in rank B had to go to an academy, otherwise they would be arrested. Pouting on her bed, Haben said that was why she wished she had stayed in rank C, so she wouldn't have to go to the academy. She wanted to stay at home, comfortably, doing her training online in a cozy room. However, for those in rank B or above, the training was in person, with at least a month under supervision. With a smile that hid her anger, Haben asked if, to avoid confinement, she really had to go to the academy while carefully hiding her strength. Upon learning from Haben what the academy was, the Razar became excited. However, Haben just wanted to give up. Lying in bed, Haben just wanted to be like the Korean YouTubers, posting videos while talking about how great the country was, eating until she was stuffed and doing things like that. Suddenly, Haben heard her phone ring. She received a message from someone named Kim Ji-on, the class president, asking if they should start the meeting. Picking up her phone, Haben couldn't believe it was already time. Even though she had left school in her first year, just like many others after the portal incident, her old class group was still active, even after 5 years. She realized that this was all because of one person. In the group chat, everyone was excited to find out that, possibly, a guy named Tae-seo might join the meeting. Curious, Rizar asked what was so amazing about this Tae-seo that made him so popular. Haben revealed that Tae-seo was number 1 in the domestic hunters ranking, the first and only triple S rank hunter in Korea, the best result from Yunseo High School first year class 7. In addition, he held both the 2nd position in the world ranking and the 1st position nationally, and was Korea's representative hunter. Haben explained that basically, Tae-seo was a celebrity among celebrities. Frowning, Haben felt that times had really changed. Back in school, Tae-seo was just a kid who sat in the back of the class, reading novels and manga with her. And now, he had changed quite a bit since the last time they saw each other. Haben felt something strange, as if she were seeing a friend she had lost touch with. With so many messages coming in, Haben felt her phone heating up. The group, in fact, only existed because of the possibility of meeting Tae-seo. Frowning, Haben was indignant. Those bastards always ignored Tae-seo because he was quiet and weird at school, and now they were always asking about him. While she was struggling 5 years ago, no one even asked about her. Reza remembered that people only cared about those who were successful. That's why she should reveal her power. Since she knew the world was going to end, Haben thought she should at least see her old classmates one last time. She sent a message to the group. "This time I'll go." After the message was sent, an awkward silence filled the group. Next to the girl, and seeing no other messages, Reza commented, "They really don't respect you." Going back to bed, Haben hid under the covers, pretending not to care. When night fell, 2 hunters were talking in the street. One of them, wearing a jacket, asked his companion, "Why are you staring at your phone like that?" Without getting an answer, the hunter watched his friend walk away. Left alone, he complained, "That idiot really has no social skills. Well, at least we're done." Walking through the city, the hunter glanced at his phone once more. On it was a message notification from Hyun Harbin in the group. "This time I'll go." Remembering his school friend, Tae-seo felt an unexpected wave of nostalgia. The next day, carrying a suitcase, Harbin sighed, upset because she didn't want to go to the gym. She was standing in front of the Hunters Association. She much preferred to pay a fee than to attend the classes. Since there was no clause about being late, she planned to arrive as late as possible. Talking to Rezer, she complained, "I don't want to be a hunter, so why force me to train? This is an unnecessary waste of tax money. We shouldn't be using national funds like this." While she was complaining, Harbin didn't notice that someone was approaching her. A hooded man appeared behind the girl, asking in her ear, "Are you the new apprentice who arrived this time?" Wondering who was talking to her, Harbin turned around, facing the young man with golden eyes and hair. Finding the man's informal tone strange, Harbin asked who he was. The young man took out a card, revealing himself to be one of the mentors at the training center, and asked her not to be so defensive. Asking if her suitcase was heavy, the mentor received a no in response. Harbin turned her back to him, intending to go up the stairs to the academy on her own. The girl simply picked up the suitcase as if it weighed nothing and slung it over her shoulder. Skipping several steps, she climbed up quickly. Left behind, the mentor smiled, wondering who that eccentric girl was. When she reached the reception desk, Harbin was scolded by the association staff member. "Hyun Harbin, you are extremely late. Is it already lunchtime? Then you should get your lunch and get ready to join the afternoon schedule." Despite her surprise, Harbin thought she had arrived at a great time lunchtime. With her tray in hand, Harbin looked for a place to sit. Sitting at one of the tables, she sighed, hoping no one would pay attention to her, since she just wanted to eat in peace. However, as soon as Harbin sat down, that man who had said he was a mentor sat down in front of her with a smile on his face. An extremely tired expression appeared on Harbin's face. She felt that whenever she expected something, the opposite always happened. To get rid of the mentor, Harbin told him that someone was already sitting where he had taken a seat. Surprised, the mentor asked if she had made a friend, and wanted to know who it was. Making up a name on the spot, Harbin claimed that Kim Jaljo was sitting there. However, the mentor kept smiling and, to Harbin's misfortune, decided to sit down anyway. Harbin tried to calm herself down. The man might have seemed cunning, but the whole story about him being a mentor seemed legitimate, especially since Harbin had already seen some messages since she arrived. A large notification appeared above the mentor, visible only to Harbin. "The nearest light constellation is watching you with interest." Harbin knew that the nearest light constellation was possessed by only 2 people in all of Korea. The pair was the only joint contractor in the entire world, causing a huge commotion. Apprehensive, Harbin knew that the system wouldn't lie to her. She had already heard about the pair's passive ability, which made their hair color change. However, it was hard to tell what the mentor's hair color was, since he wore a hood. At that moment, someone passing behind the mentor accidentally bumped into his chair. The hood fell off, drawing everyone's attention in the cafeteria. Everyone was shocked to see the blonde man. Why is Chae Ji-sok here? Chae Ji-sok was currently among the top 3 in the country, a double S-rank ranker, and the vice leader of the Great Solaris Guild. His trademark was the sun's radiance ability, which gave his hair a natural golden shine. Ignoring the stares around the table, and even the cell phones taking pictures of him, Ji-seok focused on the protagonist who was eating. "You're Hyun Harbin, right? Would you like to join our guild?" Hyun Harbin promptly refused, ignoring the hunter. However, Chae Ji-sok did not give up. "If you're curious about the terms, I can reveal them to you in advance. If you join us, the base pay will be 1 billion won. Harbin cut him off immediately. "That's not enough." Shocked, Ji-seok raised the offer. "How about 10 billion? The amount didn't even make Harbin stop eating to answer, "I already have that." The vice guild leader was left perplexed at not receiving an affirmative answer. Soon, conversations in the cafeteria began to spread. "Who is that talking to Chae Ji-sok?" He offered her a spot in the guild and apparently she turned it down. "Who is she to reject an invitation from Solaris? She said she already has 10 billion. Is she really that rich? A Chable?" Hearing the murmurs, Harbin kept chewing her lunch, annoyed. As soon as she finished eating, though she was still chewing, she stood up furiously, shouting at Chae Ji-sok, "I already told you I'm not going." "I'm definitely not going." Immediately, Hyun Harbin turned to leave. Her goal was to live comfortably without working. Harbin swore that no matter how much they offered her, she would never join a guild. After lunch, the new students headed to the auditorium to continue with the afternoon schedule. One of the teachers, holding a document, announced that each of the newcomers would be assigned a mentor during the training period. "Please cooperate with the mentors who will be guiding you through the process." The teacher asked each person to introduce themselves so they could then proceed with the afternoon session. Harbin felt as if she had fallen into an abyss. Standing in front of her was the blonde mentor. "Nice to meet you, Hyun Harbin." She couldn't understand why, out of all people, that guy had been assigned as her mentor. Seeing the girl remain silent, Ji-suk smiled, trying to break the ice. The girl was blunt when she saw him. Even so, I'm not going to join your guild. Ji-suk asked her to reconsider, but she was firm. That's not going to happen. Ji-suk felt that Hyun Harbin was being extremely resolute. The next day, he had to knock repeatedly on the girl's door to wake her up. Hyun Harbin, you need to attend the morning session. You're going to be late. Annoyed, the girl tried to insist that she was taking a break for self-study. Cheerfully, Ji-seok tried to entice her. This isn't university, you know. If you keep this up, you'll have to do everything all over again. Under the covers, Harbin was extremely annoyed. Provoking Ji-seok had proven to be the wrong move. Even so, Ji-seok decided to persist. When she was on her break, he approached and discovered that she was watching a drama. Sitting on a bench in the square, Harbin decided to ignore him. But Ji-seok was persistent, recommending another drama for her to watch as well. Time passed and Harbin returned to her room, grabbing her computer. Watching the drama recommended by her mentor, she scoffed, "Does he really think this is fun? My taste is very picky, you know." The night went by quickly, and soon the next day arrived. Without having taken her eyes off the computer screen, Harbin's eyes sparkled despite her tiredness. This really is fun. Once again, Ji-seok knocked on her door, trying to call her. Surprisingly, he was very good at recommending genuinely entertaining shows. And not only that, Ji-seok bought a gigantic platter of sushi, offering it to Rabin as he asked if she was tired of cafeteria food. Rabin's eyes lit up at the sight of the salmon sushi platter. She swallowed hard when she saw that. Besides the sushi, her mentor had also bought spicy chicken and jeju pork. All those foods were on the list of the most desired in the world, leaving poor Rabin utterly stunned. As she ate those delicacies, Rabin wondered why Ji-seok was doing all this. Why was the vice leader of the Solaris Guild so actively trying to recruit her? In Korea, the top guild was Kaligo, led by the #1 ranker, Kang Tae-seo. The country's #2 and 3 rankers formed the Solaris Guild, and one of them was none other than Ji-seok. Rabin couldn't understand why he was so desperate to recruit an A-rank awakened, considering he was the vice leader of one of the top guilds in the country. She felt that something was off, that this guy definitely knew something. Reading her contractor's thoughts, Rezer got excited. "Your power is being revealed." Annoyed by the comment, Rabin tossed her sword aside when they got back home. Exhausted, she complained, "I just want to finish this training and leave as soon as possible." Trying to get some rest, Rabin wished that nothing would happen. However, Rezer was hoping for the opposite. The next day, the students would take part in a practical class at the training center to clear a mirrored dungeon. The teacher explained that upon entering, the dungeon would analyze the participants' traits and summon monsters compatible with their levels. No one needed to be tense, because for safety, they would be accompanied by a mentor. Rabin was shocked. That class was insane. Someone needed to stop it, because something huge would happen if she took part. The girl sighed, "I feel like I shouldn't take this class." Appearing beside her, mentor Ji-seok revealed that she couldn't skip it, since it was a required subject. He smiled enthusiastically. "How could you, a first year, think about skipping classes?" Frustrated, Rabin wanted to skip class precisely to keep the annoying mentor safe. She knew it would be dangerous, since each of her stats was in the 2 billion range. Her grade was unknown, although her rank was negative. With all that combined, she wondered what kind of monster would appear. Soon it was time for the 7th group to enter the dungeon. The mentor, Ji-seok, with the student Hyun Harbin. Seeing the two walking side by side, many students were extremely envious. Before entering the dungeon, Harbin stopped and warned, "Hey, I'm telling you this for your own good. You'd better run away." With a frightening look, the girl gave the mentor one last warning. After the portal incident, which happened 5 years ago, 2 types of dungeons began to appear. The first was a gigantic dungeon, known as the Final Screen. In it, it was possible to conquer a special dungeon on each floor, but the difficulty was so high that only high-ranked awakened could advance. The second type was generated randomly and would suddenly appear in populated areas. The training dungeon was precisely this type of randomly generated portal, known as a mirrored dungeon. As soon as Hyun Harbin entered her information into the machine, she and the instructor proceeded to the portal area. Unlike other dungeons, this one did not have a set rank, as it summoned monsters according to the participant's level. Even after conquering the dungeon within that chaotic portal, it would not disappear, allowing participants to leave freely. With these unique features, the mirrored dungeon was perfect for training novices like Harbin. As soon as Harbin and the instructor Choi Jae-seok crossed the portal, they found themselves in a vast desert surrounded by rocky mountains. While the dungeon was analyzing the participants' ranks, Choi Jae-seok looked around and then smiled at Harbin. "Don't be afraid. Even if it looks scary, only monsters you can defeat will appear." At that moment, several error notifications began to appear. The dungeon's limit had been exceeded, and the final rank level analyzed turned into a long string of S letters. Faced with these notifications, even Jae-seok was confused. Finally, after several messages, the category assessment was completed. Immediately, a shadowy mist appeared. Sharp eyes stared at the humans in front of them. A gigantic paw with sharp claws smashed into the ground, and with a terrifying howl, one of the countless nameless creatures summoned en masse shook the skies. Quickly, the instructor stepped in front of Rabin. "Get back! I can't see their health bar." The giant monster opened its beak, beginning to gather a large sphere of dark energy. Madly, it fired the sphere like a jet of energy, piercing a mountain from one side to the other. Faced with such a powerful attack, the instructor stated that they needed to leave the dungeon immediately. However, the notification in front of their eyes thwarted their plans. "You cannot leave until you complete the dungeon." He couldn't believe it. Phenomena like this only happened in special double S-rank portals. Jae-sok gritted his teeth and, snapping his fingers, produced a flash of light. 2 long daggers appeared in his hand as he got ready to fight. Monsters of all kinds appeared on the horizon, advancing toward the teacher and student duo. Choi Jae-sok took the initiative, charging at one of the monsters and attacking it with his twin daggers, unleashing blows of light. However, shock was written all over his face when he realized his attacks had no effect. He couldn't understand what was happening. Meanwhile, Rabin was looking at her notification window. This is an act of deceiving the judgment of the Void Contagion system. Designate one of the opponent's stats to ignore, usable once per day. Rabin figured that, since there were no health bars, if she ignored the monster's health stats with the Void Contagion, she could defeat them easily. However, she wondered what she should do, since there was a witness with her. Arizar appeared beside Rabin, trying to convince her to attack the monster so the professor wouldn't be eaten. However, Rabin was more focused on how strange and inefficient Choi Jae-sok's movements were. Reading her thoughts, Arizar explained that Jae-sok was moving that way because he was prioritizing her protection. This made Rabin come to a decision and use the Void Contagion. Select the enemy's life. Immediately, a notification appeared stating that the opponent's life stats would be ignored. Rabin also used another ability, deactivate inactive, select stat, agility. Immediately, Rabin's agility stat, which had been suppressed, was released. Seeing the girl finally reveal her power took Arizar by surprise. She drew her sword, revealing her intentions. "I'm going to end this quickly and silence the witness." While Arizar was still surprised by the last part, Rabin activated a new ability, activate trait Warlord's Rebirth. With a red energy shining on the usurper's sword, Rabin raised it, activating Arizar's summoned abilities. The girl leapt, dozens of meters above the professor so he couldn't see her, aiming at the approaching army of monsters. Wielding her sword, Rabin unleashed an energy attack that swept away everything in front of her, like an avalanche descending from a crimson sky. All the monsters simply evaporated before that power. Jae-sok, who was almost caught by the attack, gritted his teeth trying to hold his ground and was soon left speechless. Rabin swung her sword, unleashing energy slashes to instantly eliminate the monsters. With a serious look, she continued her silent assault. For Choi Jae-sok, such a level couldn't be found in Korea. Even compared to the world's top rankers, she would not pale in comparison. It was possible that the abilities the girl displayed surpassed any skills that could be found on Earth. Following closely behind Rabin, Arizar revealed his surprise. "Using my abilities so perfectly, when did you analyze and master all of them?" Rabin didn't answer, ending the conversation as she was far too busy. Looking over the battlefield, she raised her sword upon noticing that only one monster remained. The monster at the top of the hill was precisely the humanoid with animal legs and a bird's beak, the one that had launched the attack at the beginning. Opening its beak once more, it unleashed a sharp burst of sound, trying to stop the girl. However, sharp lines appeared in an attack as crimson as Rabin's gaze. In seconds, the girl eliminated the last remaining monster, turning it into sliced chicken. Jae-sok could hardly believe that the girl had defeated the boss monster with just one attack. After taking out the monsters, Rabin walked toward the instructor, who had dropped his daggers out of sheer fear. Before Jae-sok realized it, Rabin had already placed her sword against his neck. Coldly, she revealed the reason for her threat. "Honestly, I feel like you've seen too much. You know that too, don't you?" Faced with the girl's words, as sharp as the sword she held, the instructor swallowed hard. Desperately, Rizar tried to stop Rabin. "Wait a minute. Are you really going to do this? This human even got hurt trying to protect you. Isn't this going too far?" While Rizar desperately tried to protect the human, who seemed like a good guy, Jae-sok pointed at him. "Hey, is that a constellation?" A deafening silence fell among the three. Having been found out, Rizar broke out in a cold sweat, changing her mind about eliminating Jae-sok, which made Rabin furious at the sudden change in attitude. "I told you to keep quiet so people wouldn't hear you. Don't you remember?" Rabin sighed, annoyed. "This is a problem. Jae-sok, you've just uncovered another secret you shouldn't have. Having gotten the instructor into trouble while trying to help him, Rezar tried to apologize to him profusely. Seeing that his fate was in the girl's hands, Jisok sat down on the floor and unexpectedly remarked, "I see. Hyun Harbin, as I thought, you were the guardian of deceit, right?" Upon hearing the question, Harbin was so surprised that she fell silent. Jisok looked at the iron sword that Hyun Harbin carried. Although it looked completely ordinary, even with his skill and piercing eyes, he couldn't analyze it. On the day he met Harbin outside the academy and tried to analyze her, Jisok saw his constellation, the nearest light, temporarily disappear, and his monocle was destroyed as well. Jisok knew at that moment that the vast and unfathomable existence Hyun Harbin carried could only be something that far surpassed his own constellation. Thinking more about it, he realized that there had always been something odd about Harbin's laziness, who always finished everything just well enough to avoid failing. To the girl's surprise, Che Jisok revealed something. "If what I said is true, you're in danger." It wasn't reported in the media, but all rankers above SS rank received a mission to eliminate the Guardian of Deceit. Harbin and Rezar were surprised, but she soon remembered a notification she had received on the day she picked up the sword. The administrator system would start treating her as an enemy. Jisok stated that his guild, Solaris, had opposed this mission, so she would be protected if she officially joined the guild. That was the reason he had become her mentor, to try to recruit her in order to protect her. When Jisok mentioned protection, both Harbin and Rezar were left confused and thoughtful. That's why Hyun Harbin asked, "Sorry to interrupt your serious moment, but who's protecting whom here? Do you really think I need someone else to protect me?" It was then that Jisok realized that surrounded by monster corpses, he was completely wounded, while the girl he claimed to protect was totally unharmed. All he could do was laugh, left speechless. Harbin couldn't help but blame the Rezar sword for the situation they had gotten into. "Jiao, don't try to pretend nothing happened. I clearly told you to stay quiet." Throwing the spirit back into the sword where it resided, Hyun Harbin punished him. Hearing the girl arguing with the constellation spirit, Jisok remembered the day he tried to sit with her in the cafeteria. She had said that the seat in front of her belonged to someone named Kim Jiao. Now Jisok understood that it hadn't been a joke. Having punished Jiao, Hyun Harbin pointed her sword at Jisok. "All right, now it's your turn." With a cold look, she questioned how he knew she was the guardian of deception. Jisok sighed and placed his hands on his legs. Amidst the light, he conjured a sundial, an item of immeasurable rank. Since ancient times, the sun had been revered as a deity. Such an item, used by special classes connected to the sun, could grant glimpses of the truth in the future. Upon seeing the item, Jiao was incredulous. Foresight abilities? This guy has a rogue class, but possesses high-level foresight abilities. Jisok acted humbly, claiming he wasn't that amazing, since everything he saw was vague and abstract. That's why he never knew how strong Harbin was, and that's why he made the mistake of entering the mirrored dungeon with her. Determined to reveal his secret trump card, Jisoo created a flash of light. A monocle appeared on his face. Piercing gaze and sundial, perception and foresight. I possess the abilities to see everything ahead of others. After putting away his items, he smiled, asking if Harbin understood that he hadn't heard about her from anyone or investigated her. This would ensure that no information had been leaked. After understanding the matter, Harbin asked about the mission to eliminate the Guardian of Deception. Jisoo was straightforward. The sole purpose of the mission was to eliminate her. Harbin asked what the reward was, and Jisoo revealed that whoever completed it would receive 10 resurrection stones. The quality of the reward surprised even Jiao. Lowering his head, Jisoo revealed that both he and the guildmaster were against the mission, since eliminating a person just for a mission was not reasonable. Hearing how Choi Jisoo and his guild thought brought some thoughts to Hyun Harbin's mind, especially after Choi Jisoo took her sword and drew it closer to himself as he said, "It's all true. Hyun Harbin, we're on your side." Harbin was still surprised, but decided to give them the benefit of the doubt. Later, when the sun was about to set over the Hunter Training Center, Jiao accompanied the protagonist while praising her. Unlike her, who collapsed onto the bed mentally exhausted, the sword spirit showed its excitement, returning from a dungeon as they protected each other's secrets like good friends. What a true human bond. Harbin, however, corrected Jiao on one thing. "I never planned to eliminate Choi Jisoo, you know?" The sword spirit, Rezar, was confused and asked what that whole scene was about, with her pointing her sword and everything. With her eyes closed, Harbin stated that she needed to do that at least to get some information. She also reminded the spirit that Choi Jisoo was not someone they could easily eliminate. Confused, Jiao asked what she meant. That was when she reminded him. The other seer, the constellation near the light, saw everything, from beginning to end. Harbin stated that the twin constellation must have already gone to her other contractor and revealed everything she had seen. Therefore, even if they eliminated Choi Jisoo, the constellation could not be silenced. She was afraid that by messing with Ji-sok, the Constellation's other contractor would not just stand by. Moreover, the loss of a double S-rank hunter, beloved by South Korea, would drive the world mad. Rabin also revealed that there was another reason to trust Choi Ji-sok. Zhao Zhao became curious to know what the reason was, and Rabin quickly reminded him of the moment when Ji-sok brought the sword close to his own neck. At that time, if anything had gone wrong, Ji-sok would have become just a memory, because coincidentally, the void contagion ability which ignored my enemy's total health points was still active. Realizing that they could have finished off Ji-sok with a single blow if he had been marked as an enemy, Zhao Zhao was so surprised that his eyes nearly popped out. That was why Rabin believed in Ji-sok, because he had proven his innocence by risking his own life without even knowing it. Such a situation only unfolded in a satisfactory way because Rabin activated the ability as enemy's life and not as opponent's life. Changing the subject, Rabin put her hand in her pocket. From there, she took out a vial filled with a fiery red liquid. Ji-sok had given that potion to Rabin as a token of gratitude for all her hard work cleaning the dungeon. After thinking about Ji-sok's actions, she could only comment, "This guy is really strange. Who would give a gift to someone who pointed a sword at them?" Somewhere else, someone was hurriedly using a computer. It was none other than Ji-sok, who was being questioned by his constellation about what he was doing. Ji-sok was thinking about Hyun Harbin, the instructor who was having coffee. He thought that, after finding out the system had assigned a mission to eliminate the Guardian of Deceit and having his strength exposed to the continent's high rankers, any normal person would be trembling with anxiety. Thinking for a moment, Ji-sok remembered something. That girl likes Yondankatsu, doesn't she? Sometime later, carrying a Yondankatsu bag, Ji-sok headed to Rabin's dormitory and called out to her. However, when he didn't get a response, Ji-sok assumed she was sleeping. At that moment, the door to the room opened and, shocked to see her, Ji-sok asked, "What are you doing?" When he entered the girl's room, Ji-sok was startled to see her spreading various clothes all over the place. "What are you doing? The practical class starts in 5 minutes, you know that?" However, even with the teacher's warning, Rabin said she would skip the training class with him because she had a meeting to attend. Bitterly, Ji-sok asked if she at least remembered that there was a mission out for her elimination. However, Rabin didn't even seem to care much. After thinking for a moment, she decided to disable the attribute deactivation, restoring her health points to the original 2 billion. That's why she didn't need to worry about being attacked. Confident, she beamed as she asked the tutor, "It's not like worrying would change anything, right?" With the same smile, she gave a warning that startled Ji-sok. "Let's not talk about each other's secrets. If word gets out and people start crowding around, we won't even be able to go out together." A faint smile returned to the teacher's face when Rabin changed the subject, catching the scent of pork ribs made at Yondan. For Ji-sok, Rabin's reaction was better than if she hadn't reacted at all. Then, he handed her the bag of food. While Rabin ate the snack Ji-sok had brought, she used her phone to do some research. Suddenly, she shouted furiously when she saw something. "Hey, Zhao Zhao, you used my money to buy web novels again, didn't you?" Zhao Zhao tried to dodge the blame, but had his sword stepped on by the furious girl. With her mouth full, Rabin exclaimed, "I can see the entire purchase history. You'd better confess while you still can." Sweating nervously, Zhao Zhao raised the tablet, showing the screen to Rabin as he apologized. "I heard there's a genre about hunters and I got curious. I just couldn't let it pass." Zhao Zhao also showed the tablet to Ji-sok, who was surprised to see the theme. Looking at the novels that had been released decades ago, Zhao Zhao asked curiously, how did humans know all this in advance? Eating the pork ribs he had brought for a snack, Ji-sok shared the same opinion. "That's right. When the gate incident happened, everyone was freaking out, saying that hunter stories were becoming reality. Some famous titles even made it into the record books as the world's best bestsellers. They became read worldwide." Surprised, Zhao Zhao remarked that it was totally worth reading these works to build a good resume. Snorting, Rabin said he understood why Zhao Zhao read that kind of thing, but asked why he read fantasy romance. Having his secret taste discovered, Zhao Zhao was shocked and hid his face behind the tablet so he wouldn't be seen. Picking up the phone and looking at the books Zhao Zhao had bought, she commented, "If it were things like contemporary romance or stories about real life, I could say you're curious about human relationships, but why are you reading fantasy romance? Even hardcore titles?" On Rabin's phone screen was the cover of one of the novels, where a woman was holding a chain attached to a collar around the king's neck. Looking away, Zhao Zhao revealed, "These things kind of remind me of how I used to live." Rabin was surprised by the revelation, and seeing Zhao Zhao hide his face, she asked, "Are you crying?" Seeing that Zhao Zhao didn't want to look at her, Rabin felt extremely guilty. "Hey, I'm sorry. If you have a reason, read all the fantasy novels you want. I'll cover the cost of 10,000 won a month for that." A little more relieved, Zhao Zhao forced himself to stop crying, saying that he would ask for permission next time. While continuing his snack, Ji-seok watched the pair's interaction. He thought he had seen everything in life, but this was the first time he saw a constellation reading a web novel. He understood that since money was being spent and web novels were being read, it meant that praying could physically interfere with the world. In his mind, the constellation close to the light sent a message expressing her frustration. This was the most the constellation could do, so it was better to stay quiet to avoid causing chaos if the matter leaked out. Changing the subject, Ji-seok asked Rabin when her meeting would take place. Confused, the girl revealed that it would only be in the afternoon. This made Ji-seok frown, annoyed. What? Then you should be training. To avoid exerting herself, Rabin put a plan into action. She tried to smile sweetly like a flower to get out of the obligation. I hope we're already doing well. However, her attempt to charm the tutor failed, since her face was dirty. In a bar, someone slammed a can of Guaraná on the table, complaining about how badly work was going. Another person complained about how their engineering job had been ruined because of the portals. Another, who was studying pharmacy, was thinking about dropping out, just like many others. A girl sighed heavily, venting, I spent all my sanity in medical school and lost all my jobs to the healers. Next to her, another woman was surprised that even pharmacists and doctors had to worry about their jobs. However, at the table there was an excited young man. We're doing really well here. We have a lot of construction to do these days. The frustrated girl snorted. Oh, Mr. Architect, that's only because the monsters keep destroying all the buildings. Don't be so happy about it. Even happier than the engineer was a blonde man with short hair. Hunters have been making a lot of money lately. His name was Park Min-soo, a C-rank hunter, the only hunter in the class besides Tae-seo. At that table of 8 people, he was the only one boasting so much that he practically shone, making the others fall silent. Some people even slapped their own faces, unable to believe that Park Min-soo was bragging so much, even though he was only a C-rank, nowhere near Tae-seo. Even against her will, one of the girls interacted with him. All right, Min-soo, how have things been going for you these days? Glowing with pride, Min-soo said that he had tried to apply to the Solaris Guild for a trial contract. Next to him, a young man pretended to care. Wow, Solari, seriously? Not noticing the sarcasm, Park Min-soo said he was still waiting for the results, even though I don't know if I'll get in, whatever. Changing the subject, Park Min-soo tried to reassure his friends, saying that these days many people couldn't even go to college because of the portals, and tried to recall someone who hadn't managed to graduate. Everyone remembered the same person, Hyun Harbin. At that moment, someone entered the bar while everyone was talking. Curious, Park Min-soo asked if anyone knew what Harbin was up to, but no one had any idea since nobody talked to her. It was at that moment that a girl's voice came from behind them all. I'm just surviving, I guess. Park Min-soo was surprised when he turned around and found himself face to face with Hyun Harbin. Making a peace sign, Harbin greeted everyone. Long time no see, I didn't know you all cared so much about me. With a bright smile that masked her mockery, Park Min-soo insisted that of course he cared. As Harbin sat down next to him, Min-soo said he'd heard a lot about her. He gave a fake smile and commented, I heard you've been jumping from job to job, all related to portals. Squeezing Raven's shoulder, he told her to call him if she ever needed a job, revealing that he was a rank C hunter. Hearing the comment, Hyun Harbin was surprised. Did you say you're a rank C? With a smug smile, he tried to feign some humility. Yes, but these days, even being a rank C doesn't mean much. A lot of rank Cs don't make it. With a displeased tone, Hyun Harbin commented, Rank C? I'm jealous. Park Min-soo was confused, since Harbin's gloomy expression didn't match someone who would be jealous. She asked irritably, so you don't have to do any personal training, right? No mentoring or anything like that? Park Min-soo was confused when he heard Hyun Harbin mention those things. That's when the young man next to Park Min-soo commented, Ah, Min-soo applied to Solaris. Hearing the comment, something clicked in Min-soo's mind. He immediately put on a smug face. Yeah, I applied, though I don't know if I'll get in. This time, Hyun Harbin looked confused and asked, No scout contacted you? Min-soo's smug expression turned confused, and he felt 2 hands grip his shoulders heavily. Annoyed, Harbin stared deep into Min-soo's vacant eyes. No one is chasing after you like crazy? No one is asking if you want to join a guild? Does that mean they don't care until you actually apply? Harbin started trembling, feeling the urge to curse the heavens. The girl nearly fell out of her chair, covering her face with her hands, shaking with envy down to her bones. Harbin's strange reaction worried her friends, who tried to figure out what was going on. Is it really such a big deal, Min-soo, not to be training? Min-soo, feeling slighted, wondered if Harbin was actually jealous. He ground his teeth furiously. Don't be ridiculous, Hyun Harbin. This isn't the time for you to act like this toward me, is it? With a contemptuous look, he tried to belittle the girl. You dropped out of school and have been jumping from job to job. You should be begging me to get you a job. Seeing that Min-soo was already drunk, some colleagues tried to stop him, but he didn't care about speaking his mind. His look of contempt was as obvious as his words. You have nothing. Do you have something up your sleeve? Or what? You used to be friends with Tae-seo, but you two don't even talk anymore, do you? Hyun Harbin, who was on the verge of tears from sheer envy, paused for a moment. She even startled Park Min-soo when she shot back. And if I do, what are you going to do about it? Apologize? Are you going to apologize for what you did to him? If you're going to get on your knees and beg Tae-seo for forgiveness, then maybe, just maybe, I'll consider reaching out again. Memories of a boy who was despised, belittled, and cast aside by his classmates surfaced in Hyun Harbin's mind, and her expression turned furious. Seeing a piece of trash like you living in peace is not something I want, she said. Park Min-soo backed away when Harbin asked if he had ever tried to contact Tae-seo, since he had never felt any desire to apologize. Seeing how he remained silent, Harbin smiled. Yeah, just as I thought, you're too arrogant to apologize, so you pretend nothing happened and just move on. You tried to join Solaris just to avoid running into Tae-seo at Caligo, didn't you? Hearing Hyun Harbin's words, their former classmates were surprised. Park Min-soo, the accused, retorted, What do you know? That was just friendly teasing. An intimidating look flashed in Hyun Harbin's eyes when she heard Min-soo's excuse. The C-rank hunter clenched his teeth in slight fear, wondering what was up with the girl in front of him. Park Min-soo felt as if he were facing an entity from the underworld, a pure, sinister skeleton. However, he quickly recovered, telling himself it was all in his head, and countered the accusations. I wasn't avoiding him on purpose. I was just waiting for the right moment to apologize, he snorted, giving a hollow excuse. I only signed up for Solaris because an acquaintance asked me to. Harbin was surprised to hear this, and, picking up her phone, she commented, This is interesting. Actually, I know the vice leader of that guild. Park Min-soo's eyes nearly popped out of his face when he heard Harbin. However, he told himself that it was just a bluff. With a suspicious look, he asked, Do you know the vice leader of the Solaris Guild? Harbin thought for a moment as he looked at his phone, then showed his conversation with Chae-ji-sok to Park Min-soo, commenting, We're companions who share pork ribs, I think. Park Min-soo, however, smirked mockingly. Come on, at least try harder when you lie. You just saved someone else's number under his name, didn't you? Suddenly, an excited voice interrupted their argument. Guys, that's not the important point right now. Everyone turned to look at the young man holding his phone. To everyone's surprise, he shouted, Tae-seo is coming! Even Hyun Harbin was surprised. What? Tae-seo is coming? Everyone gathered around a girl, who told them all, He suddenly messaged me, asking if Harbin was here. I told him she was. Then he said he would come. As everyone got excited to see Tae-seo, Hyun Harbin was left speechless. After surviving all kinds of tragic situations, Hyun Harbin felt her instincts telling her she needed to leave right then. Planning to leave before Tae-seo arrived, she stood up and said, Guys, I'm heading out now. Take care. Trying to avoid any trouble, she planned to make her escape. However, Park Min-soo approached her, grabbing her shoulder. Hey, if you're running away, does that mean you were lying about talking to him? Annoyed, Harbin snapped back at him. Do I look like you or something? While the two argued and Harbin grabbed Park Min-soo's face, almost tearing it off, the door opened. Park Tae-seo entered the bar right at the peak of the fight and was met with the unexpected scene. Everyone was shocked to see Tae-seo after such a long time. He shone as if he were a painting, too unreal to be true. The girl who had received a message from Tae-seo stood up, offering him a seat. On the other side of the table, the architect asked Tae-seo how he was doing. While some people asked if they could get autographs for their siblings, Tae-seo slowly walked in a certain direction. He stopped in front of Hyun Harbin, and after a minute of silence he spoke, It's been a long time since I've seen you. Harbin replied in the same monotone, Yes, it's been a long time. With a smile, Harbin tried to slip away, but Tae-seo didn't let her, grabbing her by the hood. Wait, I came here because of you. Crying so much that her face was washed with tears, Harbin cursed herself for coming to the meeting. Tae-seo got straight to the point. I'm here because I want to offer you a spot at Caligo. Hearing Tae-seo's offer, some people started to ask each other why he had invited Hyun Harbin, of all people, to join Caligo. Confused, Tae-seo asked, Wait, none of you know yet? Hyun Harbin is an A-rank hunter. The sudden revelation from Tae-seo left everyone at the alumni meeting frozen. Everyone stared wide-eyed like fish. What did you say? A-rank? Hyun Harbin? No way, there are 3 hunters in our class? On one side, Park Min-soo was in disbelief. On the other, Hyun Harbin rolled her eyes, nearly losing her sanity. Park Tae-seo didn't want to lose a potential hunter. Hyun Harbin, I don't know which other guild made you an offer, but I'll double whatever they offered you. Annoyed, Harbin thanked him but said she wouldn't be joining him. Some girls started talking among themselves, recalling what they had seen earlier. Didn't she say she knew the vice master of the Solaris Guild? So does that mean she's already in Solaris? Startled by the side conversations, Hyun Harbin shouted, shifting the focus. "Oh right, Tae-seok. I completely forgot." She pointed at Min-soo, a smile on her face. "Look, Min-soo said he wanted to apologize to you." Park Min-soo, who was trying to slip away, was caught off guard. Grabbing Park Min-soo by the shoulders, she dragged him over to Tae-seok. "Didn't you say you'd apologize if you got the chance? Here it is. Come on, apologize. A chance for you to redeem yourself and become a reformed Min-soo." Sweating like a horse, Min-soo lowered his head, wondering if Tae-seok would do something to him in retaliation for the past. Avoiding Tae-seok's eyes, he stammered as he apologized. "I'm sorry for what I did. I was wrong. There's no way I can make up for it." Park Tae-seok sighed when he heard the apology. "Oh really?" Trembling, Min-soo wondered if he was about to be attacked right then. He lifted his face, and as soon as his eyes met Tae-seok's cold gaze, he was startled. Sanity left Park Min-soo's body and, in front of everyone, he simply fainted from fear, collapsing onto one of the benches and on top of a former classmate. This allowed Tae-seok to return to his main topic. "Hyun Harbin, we want you in Caligo. Tell us your terms." Harbin was almost tearing himself apart, wondering what was up with this guy. While Park Min-soo was tossed into a corner of the bar and everyone laughed at him, Tae-seok kept pressing the recruitment issue. While Hyun Harbin kept insisting that she wasn't planning to join a guild, she received a telepathic message. Kim Jiao wanted to know who the guy in front of them was, unable to even think straight. Harbin told him to remember the deal and keep quiet. However, Jiao wanted to know what was up with this Kang Tae-seok. Raising an eyebrow, Harbin hoped there wasn't anything serious. Telepathically, Jiao told Harbin that there was something strange about Tae-seok's constellation. Harbin didn't believe it. However, Jiao, who was watching Park Tae-seo through her eyes, pleaded with her to trust him. Hyun Harbin corrected Jiao, stating that, to begin with, Kang Tae-seo didn't have a constellation. However, Jiao didn't believe that. The protagonist paused to think for a moment, recalling how little she had actually spoken with Park Tae-seo. She remembered that the information she had about Kang Tae-seo not having a constellation had come from the internet. This made her question herself, does he really not have a constellation? Continuing to read the comments about Kang Tae-seo that day, she saw a fan of the Caligo Guild arguing with another hunter about the subject. However, the messages started to show errors, apparently because the authors had deleted them. This made her believe it was a lie. Since her phone was overheating that day, she didn't look up anything else about Kang Tae-seo. Now, faced with a problem, she decided that the best thing to do would be to go home and talk more with Jiao about the matter. She frowned, vowing internally, "Kang Tae-seo, if that's how you want to play, then I'll do things my own way too." Seeing Hyun Harbin fall silent, Kang Tae-seo tried to snap her out of it. "Hyun Harbin, are you listening to me? Join Caligo." But she repeated, "I already said no." While Kang Tae-seo was trying to convince her, Hyun Harbin reached behind her and grabbed a plate of appetizers. She then snapped irritably, "I already told you I'm not joining your guild." No. How many times do I have to say it? I'm not joining any guild." Kang Tae-seo tried to persuade her once again, but that only made her more annoyed. With the plate of snacks in hand, she started throwing them at Kang Tae-seo. "Take this and go away." Even as he was being hit by the snacks, Kang Tae-seo insisted, "You might change your mind after having a good experience." However, when Kang Tae-seo looked to where Hyun Harbin should have been, he discovered that she had disappeared. Having run out to the street, Harbin sighed, though excitedly, "I managed to escape." However, this only made Kang Tae-seo even more curious, as he wondered why she had run away. In a large hotel, a disguised person was hiding from the public eye. In one of the rooms, a desk phone rang. Hyun-seo answered the call, and on the other end, the person informed him. "About the target you mentioned, it seems she received offers from both the Solaris Guild and Caligo." Curious, Seo asked which guild the target had chosen. However, he was shocked to hear that Hyun Harbin had rejected both guilds. Worried, he asked if there was any other news. The informant revealed everything he had discovered. Other than that, her daily activities include eating takeout food, being late for classes, and things like that. Hyun-seo couldn't believe what he was hearing. He laughed in desperation, asking that his sister at least be of some use. He leaned back in his office chair, remembering how his sister used to be a model student, recognized by everyone before the Big Pot incident. In the previous cycle, Hyun Harbin had become the world's strongest hunter, and her strength allowed her to achieve incredible feats as she fought non-stop. Hyun-seo truly believed that maybe his sister was secretly doing something behind the scenes. However, something worried Hyun-seo more than his sister's laziness. In front of him was a special mission: eliminate the Guardian of Deceit. Hyun-seo couldn't understand why the system was so concerned about his sister, who was just relaxing and not causing any trouble. Hyun-seo then thought of something and took out the cell phone from his pocket. Soon, a man on the other end of the call answered, "Yes, This is the management office of the Subspace Association. However, as soon as he heard the voice of his president, the man almost choked, asking what had happened. Tae-seo ordered, "For the next Subspace conference, due to the addition of an important item to the agenda, I am moving the schedule up a bit under my authority." Hyun-seo tried to find a plausible topic to justify moving the meeting up and saw a book on his desk, 50 Methods to Conquer the Dungeon, end screen, and he stated over the phone, "Inform them that we have found a method to reach the 50th floor of the tower." The man on the phone was startled when he heard about the 50th floor, since no one had even made it past the 26th floor. While the man from the agency tried to understand what was going on, Hyun-seo ended the call. Hyun-seo was doing exactly this as an attempt to get his sister to make an effort to join them. At the same time, Yao Jiao was following Hyun Harbin, confused. "I thought you were happy to have escaped." With her hands in her pockets, Harbin said she was worried about Kang Tae-seo. "They say he reached the pinnacle of humanity without a constellation, and I believed it, but now I found out he had one all along. I feel betrayed." Changing the subject, Harbin asked Zhao Zhao if he could sense other constellations. Zhao Zhao replied that he could sense most of them, although it depended on the rank of the sacred object, since sometimes it would be impossible to determine. If someone tried to hide it, only faint traces could be sensed. Hearing the explanation, Harbin asked about Tae-seo. Thoughtfully, Zhao Zhao confirmed that Tae-seo was trying to hide his constellation. Zhao Zhao sensed a strange energy inside Kang Tae-seo on the level of a sacred item. However, Zhao Zhao had felt a bad feeling. Curious, Harbin asked if anyone besides him could detect constellations, but Zhao Zhao reassured her, "Probably not. Unless I deliberately reveal my presence, no one will discover me." This irritated her to the point of wanting to argue. "Then make sure you keep yourself hidden." Even with Zhao Zhao confidently saying he would stay hidden, she couldn't fully trust him after he had exposed himself recently. Although the meeting had been unexpectedly exhausting, Harbin realized he had left early enough to have some free time. Hearing Rabin say he wanted to do something he had been putting off, Zhao Zhao wondered what it could be. When he got home, Harbin opened a reward screen for having conquered the mirror dungeon. Non-blooming dragon's breath and a card that shouldn't exist. Zhao Zhao's eyes nearly popped out of her spirit, wondering why she had put this off. In disbelief, he asked, "Don't tell me you were just being lazy?" However, Harbin explained that since he had to interrogate Chai Ji-sok, he hadn't been able to check the reward. Furious, Zhao Zhao reminded him that she could have checked it after leaving the gate. However, Harbin just kept making more excuses, until Zhao Zhao insisted so much that she finally decided to check the rewards right then and there. Looking at the names of the items, Harbin couldn't figure out much. Even so, she decided to click the button to claim the rewards. As soon as she pressed the button, a burst of light blinded her. When the light began to fade, Harbin opened her eyes again, trying to see what had appeared. She was surprised to find an egg and a letter. The letter must have been the item called "Letter That Shouldn't Exist," while the blue and pink egg was probably the non-blooming dragon's breath mentioned in the quest. Zhao Zhao, who was with her, figured she was right. Hyun Harbin carefully picked up the egg, which was covered in scales, trying to examine it, and wondered if she should just let it sit and rot in her inventory. Hugging the egg, which was bigger than her own head, the girl asked Zhao Zhao what she should do, since theoretically she wasn't supposed to cook it. While Zhao Zhao was left speechless by the question, the egg in Hyun Harbin's arms began to tremble and unexpectedly cracked. Rabin set the egg down on the ground. She and Zhao Zhao tried to see what was happening. Quickly, a tiny hand broke through the egg from the inside. Little horns also appeared, and from inside the green and pink egg, a tiny monster, a baby dragon, emerged. The dragon, trying to get out of the egg, broke the rest of the shell. In Hyun Harbin's arms, the dragon treated her like its mother, rubbing against her while wagging its tail, leaving the girl amazed at how cute it was. Curious, Zhao Zhao went over to the letter that shouldn't exist, which was on the table. "There must be something about this little guy in this letter, right?" While the little dragon climbed onto Hyun Harbin's head as if she were a small mountain, Zhao Zhao held up the letter to her contractor, hurriedly asking her to read it. With the little dragon resting on her head, Hyun Harbin opened the letter, also curious. However, what she saw was text with blurred letters, in a dialect she could barely understand. Immediately, a voice appeared in her mind. "If you are reading this, it means you have already destroyed the mirror dungeon once. Please take care of Lieber. He likes to eat well-cooked chicken breast, and also eats the vegetables you serve him. He gets scared of sleeping alone and loves sweet desserts." Hearing the name Lieber, Hyun guessed it must be referring to the dragon climbing on her. She was, however, confused. The little dragon had just been born, yet there were several specific instructions on how she should raise him. At least, with her affection, the little dragon seemed to fall asleep on her shoulder. Even so, she remained confused, as there were many parts of the text that were smudged, and she couldn't read part of the letter properly. Suddenly, Hyun Harbin found a part of the letter that she could read without any trouble. At the end of the letter, there was a small note. I don't care whether you can stop the apocalypse or not, but if you really broke the system, you can completely reconfigure all the parameters of this place. That means you can even go back in time to when your parents were still alive. You can erase the gate incident entirely and restore everything to how it should be. Unexpectedly, the person who had written that letter seemed to be none other than Hyun Harbin herself, but from a different timeline than the one in which she was reading. Unaware of this fact, Rabin read the letter, wondering if everything could really be undone. Without expecting anything, she continued to read. This is a message to tell you not to give up. Honestly, you miss the old days too, don't you? After reading the letter, Rabin tossed it into her inventory, commenting, "This is kind of creepy, you know?" Seeing the girl's reaction, Zhao Zhao asked if she could really read it. Hyun Harbin finally remembered that Zhao Zhao had said she couldn't read that letter. The spiritual being asked if the entire text wasn't blurred for her as well. Even though the text was blurred, Hyun Harbin asked if he couldn't read her thoughts, since he was the constellation connected to her. However, Zhao Zhao stated that she also couldn't read the girl's thoughts about the letter. Curious, he asked if she managed to read it, even with the text blurred. While petting the little dragon in her lap, Harbin revealed that she was able to read what he couldn't. No matter how much it was filtered or wrapped in vague words, I couldn't help but see through it. That letter, written in gray ink, Hyun Harbin recognized the handwriting. It was her own handwriting. However, she had never written that letter, nor could she imagine ever having written it. Whether it was a trap or a purpose that shouldn't exist, as the name itself suggested, Hyun Harbin wondered who had really written the letter she had just read. The next day, the tutor and vice leader of the Solaris Guild knocked on Hyun Harbin's door once again. "Harbin, let's train." When the door was opened, Ji-sok was surprised to see Harbin already awake, but she was visibly annoyed since he just wouldn't give up. Ji-sok saw Harbin as someone even more stubborn than himself since she consistently failed to prepare for training. Letting him into her quarters, Harbin huffed, "If you work this hard, the students are going to stop liking you." Confused to see Hyun Harbin wrapping something up with a sheet, the instructor tried to ask what she was doing. Harbin tried to come up with an excuse, but realized the only way out of the situation was to give the teacher an intimidating glare. "Hey, what are you looking at?" Before Choi Ji-sok could escape Hyun Harbin's gaze, whatever was under the sheet slipped out. The little dragon jumped into the teacher's arms. Despite his surprise, Ji-sok caught the little dragon in his arms. "What is this? An animal? You can't keep pets in the training center." Hyun Harbin rushed to take the little dragon from her teacher's hands. "No, Bia, he doesn't." Both Ji-sok and Jaljal were confused by the pet's name. Jaljal was the most alarmed, knowing the dragon's true identity. "What kind of name is that? What are you talking about? What kind of person would name a dragon like that?" Confused, Ji-sok asked when Harbin had brought an animal into the training center. She just pretended not to understand, hiding the little dragon in her arms. "Oh, so it's not allowed to bring animals?" However, Ji-sok had already figured out the truth, which made him irritated. "This isn't just any ordinary animal. Hey, this is a dragon, isn't it?" Seeing the teacher point at Bia, Harbin tried to protect him, pretending not to know anything. "What? Isn't he?" Ji-sok, however, after looking closely at Bia, confirmed, "Yes, he is. You must have used a skill to hide the wings and horns, but you can't fool my eyes." The instructor became even more excited when he remembered that this was the boss monster from the mirrored dungeon. "I knew this was a dragon, and it doesn't make sense for you, who hates trouble, to go through all the bureaucracy to register a pet. No one has ever managed to register a dragon before. What's going on? Don't try to make up excuses." Faced with the teachers shouting, Harbin rolled his eyes, since his ears were already hurting. Placing the little dragon on her bed, Hyun Harbin told the truth. He was the result of a dungeon quest reward. However, she reminded Ji-sok, "This is a secret. You must not tell anyone." Ji-sok already guessed why, because if people find out, you won't be able to enjoy your life, right? As Ji-sok expected, that was the reason. Confused, Ji-sok asked why she didn't put the little dragon in her inventory if she wanted to hide it. The question left Hyun Harbin confused. Then the tutor, sitting on the floor, explained, "Since it's your first time, you might not know. As soon as you register a pet, a secondary space opens up where they can rest. However, its size and comfort depend on the player's level." Ji-sok figured that with Harbin's level, her secret space must be about the size of a hotel room. Upon learning about this special inventory, she realized it would be better to keep her dragon inside it so he wouldn't be discovered. However, she remembered something that was written in the blurred letter. "Please take care of River. He gets scared when he sleeps alone." On a fateful night, 5 years ago, torrential rain battered the windows of a house where the lights were off. A voice on the television reported on the various mysterious holes that kept appearing in the sky and how the number of people missing because of the monsters that came out of the portal was still uncertain. Soaked by the rain, lit only by the glow of the television, Rabin suffered more and more, realizing she was alone. During that time, when every day became agonizing and it was impossible to sleep at night, she begged for someone to stay by her side. She wished she would never have to go through nights like those again. With her head down, Rabin declared, "No matter how busy I am, I'll make sure he sleeps with me every night." Ji-seok was surprised and worried about Hyun Harbin, but before he could say anything comforting, she shouted, "I really don't want to go train." Trying to get out of training, Rabin asked her mentor if he would mind if she didn't go with him to the training. Ji-seok couldn't believe that was what she had to say, with fury taking over her body to the point of flaring up. "I'll let the training slide, but if anyone dares to disturb my peaceful routine again, they'll have to deal with me." Afraid of becoming the target of Rabin's wrath, the mentor lowered his head and asked what she planned to do. Suddenly, someone started banging on the door of the room, shouting, "Is student Hyun Harbin here? Someone from Caligo is looking for you." Both Rabin and Ji-seok were surprised. Rabin, because she couldn't believe Kang Tae-seok had gone so far to look for her. This made her even angrier, to the point where she swore he wouldn't escape her grasp. However, the person outside wasn't Kang Tae-seok, but a man in a suit, who greeted Rabin. They met in a cafe, where he revealed that the master of the Caligo Guild wanted to speak with her, and so they had scheduled an urgent meeting. Since today's training session is mandatory, she can't be excused from it. With this meeting, today's training will be completely replaced and processed as a practical substitute session. Realizing she could swap the combat training class for something else, Rabin rolled her eyes at her tutor. "Why have you never done something like this?" Smiling, Jin-seok asked if it made sense for a mentor to encourage his student to skip classes. Standing up, the Caligo representative announced that the car was ready. Rabin stood up as well, ready to go with him. Jin-seok ran after Rabin, trying to stop her from getting into the car. "Are you really going to join Caligo?" Rabin was about to explain when Jin-seok tried to persuade her. "Don't go. This seems a little suspicious. Caligo has no reason to go after an A rank. It could be a trap. Or maybe they've found out who you are, your true abilities." Rabin was confused by all the nonsense Jin-seok was saying. "Have you never done a background check on me before? I thought you knew a lot more." Getting ready to get into the car, Hyun Harbin revealed that Kang Tae-seok, the leader of the Caligo Guild, was actually her former classmate. "If it were just about a guild, I would run away, but he wouldn't capture a friend, right? That's how things work in Korea. We're bound by blood, by regional ties, and also by school connections." With that, Jin-seok watched the girl say goodbye and get into the car. The taxi drove off, leaving the vice master of the Solaris Guild behind. Confused, he repeated the girl's words and muttered to himself, "Kang Tae-seok from Caligo is known for being the least influenced by that sort of thing." Suspecting that something was going on, Jin-seok took out his phone. The person he called, a woman with long golden hair, answered promptly and asked what had happened. Jin-seok got straight to the point. "It's the young Hyun Harbin. Since yesterday, Caligo has started to take an interest in her." After explaining what was happening, Jin-seok made a decision and announced, "Regarding the collaboration mission with Caligo, I'm in." The woman on the other end was surprised. "Are you talking about the strategy for the 26th floor of the tower? I was thinking of sending Ji Hun-hui, since you didn't want to go. That's what he was being paid for, honestly." Although other people could go in his place, Jin-seok made it clear that he would go himself. He also asked his sister to keep an eye on Caligo, since she was more skilled in prophecy abilities. On the other end of the call, Jin-seok's sister agreed to his request. While looking over some documents, the Solaris Guildmaster, Ji-se, the Golden Priestess, told her brother that she would keep an eye on Caligo when she had some spare time. She also informed her assistant, "Jun-hui, you don't need to go anymore." Annoyed, the young man in a suit shouted, "I never wanted to go in the first place." Sometime after the trip, Rabin arrived at Caligo's office. Bowing, the security guard informed her that the guildmaster was already waiting. Opening the office door, Hyun Harbin entered naturally. Standing, Kang Tae-seok greeted her. "Rabin, I've been waiting for you." With a gentle smile, the girl thanked him. "I hope the time you spent wasn't in vain. We didn't have a proper conversation at the meeting because of all the issues, right? I hope this time we can have a good talk." After greeting Kang Tae-seok, Rabin looked around and found it odd that everything was so empty, since the Hunter's internet said that Tae-seok spent most of his time in that place. Confused, Rabin asked, "Kang Tae-seok, didn't you used to collect web novels and comics?" Averting his gaze, Tae-seok revealed that he had thrown everything away. A memory surfaced in Rabin's mind. A day when Tae-seok had shown her a new novel he had bought, the story of someone who had reincarnated as a slime. He was excited about his new purchase. "Do you know how hard I searched for this?" Kang Tae-seok smiled, as if it were his greatest treasure. "I'm going to keep this for the rest of my life." To Rabin, it was ironic. In a world where everyone was obsessed with stories about hunters, Kang Tae-seok had thrown his away. After they sat down, Kang Tae-seok apologized for what had happened the day before. I think I was too hasty in offering you a proposal to join the guild. I've changed the terms, so why don't you hear them out this time? Dodging Kang Tae-seo's persistence, Habin expressed her confusion. What's with the way you're talking? As Tae-seo looked puzzled, she explained what she found odd. Did you become a soldier or something? Why are you speaking so stiffly? You used to be the nicest guy. What happened to you? Tae-seo sighed, looking down. Well, if you act too gently, people tend to look down on you. Surprised by Tae-seo's way of thinking, Hyun Harbin realized that, in a way, he was right. After a moment of silence between the two, Habin sighed, scratching his head as he heard Tae-seo say that he would fix the way he spoke over time. At that moment, Habin returned to the main topic, asking him to start by stopping talking about recruitment. You know, I don't intend to become a hunter. Kang Tae-seo reassured her. You don't have to become a hunter. Just putting your name on the register is enough. You don't have to go into the dungeons. This time, Habin was surprised to hear the terms Kang Tae-seo mentioned. He explained that if she joined a guild expedition to the tower, the training center would count that as a replacement for the practical classes. Hyun Harbin stood up, slapping the table in complete disbelief. Does that really count as a substitute? Kang Tae-seo confirmed what he said, stating that if she wanted, he would list her on the hunting team, and that way she could skip classes. Even if you're not officially a member of the guild, I'll make sure you get the same benefits as everyone else. Hearing that she could even decide later, Habin was even more incredulous. She couldn't understand why Kang Tae-seo was offering her so many benefits. It seemed suspicious. Thinking that he must be up to something, Habin took a sip of the tea that had been served. However, as she drank the tea, she smiled cheerfully. So what if he's up to something? Being able to skip classes legally is amazing. And so, the protagonist would go all the way to the final screen just to avoid the training classes. At the entrance to the floor, news reports were taking place while hunters waited outside the warning barriers. A reporter holding a microphone was being filmed. Today marks the beginning of the joint operation between Caligo and Solaris. With the two strongest guilds in Korea joining forces, everyone wants to take a closer look. A group was checking their equipment while going over strategies. In a corner of the clearing, in front of the giant tree, Habin sat with a cup in her hands. She was amazed by so many people gathered in the same place. Next to her, someone who overheard commented, "The final screen is more dangerous than other dungeons, but the rewards are also better. High risk, high reward. That's why they revised the laws to prevent civilians from approaching without special permission, so that dangerous incidents would stop happening." Sipping her tea, Habin nodded at what the man beside her explained. However, even so, Jisuk was still confused. How did you get here? And what about the training center? But Habin simply ignored these questions. Jisuk wanted to roll his eyes, remembering that Solaris and Caligo were going to the 26th floor. Curious, Habin asked if the place was really so dangerous that it required both guilds. Jisuk revealed that, in part, yes, but that there was a fork in the dungeon. He explained that one path led to the Dark King's secret vault, while the other led to the boss room. Each guild would take a different path to find out which one was correct. Habin showed her surprise upon hearing how the 26th floor worked, but this only made Jisuk irritated, to the point of reminding her of his question. Hey, but how did you get here? The girl asked him not to worry, since she was only listed for convenience and would just sit and watch her dramas. Jisuk was surprised and asked, "So you're only here because this replaces your practical class?" While Jisuk was arguing with Hyun Harbin, two members of his guild ran toward him. "Vice Guildmaster, what are you doing here? We've been looking for you. Come quickly." Against his will, Jisuk was taken away by the two hunters, while Habin waved at him, wishing him good luck. At the same time, Hyun Harbin heard an irritated voice. The Guildmaster decided to send a rookie parachuting into the final round. What a great idea! A little further ahead, an angry man was grinding his teeth because of Habin's presence. The girl, who didn't even care about the stairs, noticed that everyone was at their limit and wondered if she was the cause of so much nervousness. Sometime later, a few staff members removed the protective barriers from the path while asking everyone to get ready to enter the dungeon. Hurried shouts of orders echoed everywhere. "Standby team, please remain in your positions. Be careful near the back entrance. There's a cliff behind it. So, standby members, please be careful." Curious, Habin watched everyone getting ready, and someone caught her attention. Jisuk signaled to her with his eyes, asking her not to try anything stupid and to stay where she was. What worried Habin was that Choi Jisuk wasn't reacting to a certain thing. That's why she wondered if she was the only one who could see a glitch window. It looked more like an item that should have been there was short-circuiting. Pointing at the glitch, Habin asked Jiajiao if he could see it. However, Jiajiao's response was confused. "What are you talking about?" Surprised, Habin tried to point at the glitch, but as soon as she touched it, something happened. A notification popped up for her. An error has been detected for the first time since the creation of the kill screen, and as a result, You have acquired the hidden title Bug Hunter, which has granted you the passive skill Error Vision, allowing you to detect errors that exist in the world. Habin cheered happily. So now I have a skill that's not just that void or something like that? Jia was shocked at how she referred to such an important skill. Hey, that's an amazing skill, one of the best in the world. However, Habin quickly cut off Jia's complaint, asking if he wasn't curious about her new skill, since error detection allowed her to see the existing errors in the world. Opening the skill information, Habin said she had planned to watch some dramas, but investigating a new skill was much more fun. Looking around from side to side, Habin searched for a place where no one was watching. Walking to the edge of a cliff next to the safety fence, she wondered if she had gone far enough. Worried, Jia pointed out that they weren't that far from the crowd. However, with a mischievous smile, Habin said that this was the perfect spot. Habin grabbed Jia with her hands while Jia tried to break free, complaining. Holding on to Jia, Habin simply jumped into the cliff ahead. Jia's scream echoed all the way down as they fell into the dark abyss. Sometime later, Jasok, who was with Park Tae-seo, received the news that a member of the expedition had fallen into the abyss. The team member who brought the information said that the person was in the waiting group, but disappeared for a moment and fell. Jasok couldn't believe that someone who was supposed to just stand still had fallen into the abyss they had been warned to be careful of. Worried, he asked what they should do. However, Park Tae-seo said that since they had already entered the dungeon, they couldn't go back to rescue the person, confident that she should be fine since she wasn't awakened. Curious, Jae-sok asked who had fallen, and both his and Park Tae-seo's expressions turned grim when they heard the name Hyun Harbin. Unexpectedly for the man who brought the news, Park Tae-seo said that they should first complete the dungeon before rescuing her. Jae-sok agreed with him, asking everyone to start moving. Gritting his teeth, Jae-sok wondered if Hyun Harbin was so bored that she threw herself into the abyss. Curious, he wondered if there was something down there that caught her interest. At that very moment, a smile appeared in Harbin's eyes as she used error vision. In front of the girl, a gigantic flaw appeared, making her excited to find out what it was. As soon as she passed through the flaw, Harbin entered a completely different world. The ground was entirely blue, and soft-toned auroras borealis filled the sky, making the scenery brilliantly magical. As soon as they entered, Harbin and Jia received a notification. You have entered an unknown subspace. A skill was created due to your unique action. The skill window displayed the new skill Subspace Entry, an active type skill that allowed entry into a subspace through an error rift. At a certain point, the window showed that she could access the 15th floor of the final screen. Confused, Harbin believed that place displayed all the errors in the world and that she could move through space whenever she wanted. Astonished by the discovery, Jia was left speechless. I can't believe you found something like this. What kind of person are you? Ignoring Jia's surprise, Harbin tried to check if it really worked. Walking a bit further, Harbin found a new error, which led to the 26th floor. Wanting just a quick peek at that floor, Harbin pressed the confirm button. Immediately, an energy appeared and sucked the protagonist through a hole in space. The brightness of that portal was immense, making Harbin raise her hand in front of her eyes to shield herself. Seconds later, Harbin was thrown out of the wormhole, landing inside the 26th floor. Managing a soft landing, Hyun Harbin looked around after the shock she had. Looking around, she found terrifying gargoyle statues. New notifications appeared for Hyun Harbin. You are in the boss room of the 26th floor, the Dark King's office dungeon. Congratulations, you are the first human to reach the boss room of the 26th floor. Harbin was surprised to see that she really was in a dark office, and even more so for having skipped all the stages and gone straight to that room. Suddenly, a dark energy accompanied by a sinister voice appeared. Who dares to step into my domain? Harbin turned around when she realized that the owner of the voice was behind her. A muscular being with horns on the sides of his head, red eyes, and a third eye on his chest appeared, bringing with him a dog with multiple heads that drooled at the sight of a juicy human. His name was Crixia, the King of Darkness, the first of the 7 kings, the King of Pride. Surprised, Harbin stared at Crixia. Ah, so you're the boss. Seeing just one person, the King of Pride snorted. I don't know how a rat got in here, but you are quite audacious. Crixia unleashed his hounds, who barked loudly and charged at Hyun Harbin. Extending her hand, Rabin summoned the usurper sword Arizar. She struck the 3-headed dog with the sword, sending it flying. With a serious look, Rabin didn't dare hold back. Flexing her ankles, she gathered momentum, shattering the ground beneath her feet. She charged forward, swinging her sword to strike Cerberus with a heavy blow, eliminating it with a burst of energy. Part of Cerberus simply flew over the Pride King's shoulder and slammed into a wall with force, leaving Crixia in disbelief. The Pride King looked back, still trying to understand what had just happened. Rabin realized she had overdone it. Ah, I just wanted to talk. You guys were the ones who started this. The boss with the pig-like face still couldn't grasp the situation he was in and broke out in a cold sweat as he stammered, "What happened?" Hyun Harbin quickly snapped him out of his stupor. "What are you doing? Aren't you going to attack?" With a provocative look, Robin rested her sword on one shoulder and, with her other hand, beckoned Chrysia to join the fight. Meanwhile, as they walked through the dungeon, the man who had complained about Hyun Harbin's presence kept grumbling. "A quitter right at the start. That's why you shouldn't bring rookies along. Couldn't you have foreseen this kind of accident?" Hearing the complaint, King Tae-seo simply ignored it. That made the man even more irritated. As a senior, he didn't like being ignored. His anger at King Tae-seo for bringing a rookie into the dungeon just because she was his friend made him grit his teeth. Smiling, he looked at a companion and gave a nod. He planned, right there in the dungeon, to put an end to King Tae-seo's arrogance and knock him down from his position as guild leader. Sometime later, a being who had just woken up found himself face to face with a girl, Hyun Harbin, talking to him. Hey, open your eyes." Chrysia, who had been buried in the wall, wondered what was going on. "Who are you? Where did you come from?" Pointing her sword at the King of Pride, Harbin asked if she really needed to explain. However, afraid, the king who had lost his pride told her to do whatever she thought was best. Harbin asked Chrysia if this was a place where you could only leave after defeating the dungeon boss. Sweating, the King of Pride confirmed that it was. This made Hyun Harbin grip her sword tightly, frightening the pig monster, who tried to survive at any cost. "We can end this without you attacking me. I can just surrender and move to another floor." Curious, Harbin asked what would happen to the reward if he surrendered. Regarding the reward, Chrysia asked her to let him out of the wall so they could talk about it. Soon, various weapons such as swords, daggers, and spears were laid out on the table, along with precious jewels that could only be found in dungeons. With a smile, Chrysia asked her to choose whatever she wanted from the items on the table. On the table, among the various items, was the Sword of Vanity, a legendary level weapon that provided 30 attack power points. There were also the Bracers of Arrogance, which provided defense, and the Necklace of Vanity, which had 15 charm effect points. The amount of stats the items provided did not catch Harbin's attention. "Only 50 points? These items are trash. You're not deliberately hiding the good stuff, are you?" Chrysia was shocked by the question. "I'm not. These are real treasures." The King of Pride couldn't believe that someone could consider items that increased a person's stats by 50 points to be trash. Even triple S rank hunters only had about 200 attack points. Chrysia even cried at the contempt. "They really are good, I swear." However, Rabin insisted that they were all useless to her. Since nothing seemed to satisfy her, the King of Pride asked what it was that she supposedly wanted. Meanwhile, Jiseok and Kang Tae-seo's groups had arrived at the spot where they would part ways. With a fork in the path ahead, Jiseok announced that they would split up there, and that if the boss fight was still ongoing when the secret room was cleared, the groups would join forces to face it. As the groups began to split up, the elder of Kang Tae-seo's guild smiled, since everything was going according to plan. Whispering, he reminded his team, "You remember the plan, right? When we reach the boss room, we'll push Kang Tae-seo inside and lock him in alone." Worried, a masked rogue asked the man named Hwang Maro what would happen if Kang Tae-seo defeated the boss and made it out alive. Hwang Maro reassured him, since not even the #1 ranker, Fiddies, had managed to get that far yet. Maro believed that if, by any chance, Tae-seo managed to defeat the boss, he would be exhausted from the fight, so they could deal with him afterward. Kang Tae-seo's careless way of walking made Maro confident that he had no idea what was about to happen. His world was about to collapse. Sometime later, Kang Tae-seo's guild arrived at a huge wooden door reinforced with steel. Kang Tae-seo walked up to the door and opened it, letting the light from the boss room spill into the area of the dungeon where he was. Immediately, Hwang Maro gave the signal for the traitors to act. The masked young man used his strike ability to destabilize the ground beneath Kang Tae-seo. A mage also moved, casting a paralysis spell. A third traitor also used an ability, a backstab attack spell. The combination of the three abilities caught Kang Tae-seo by surprise. The hunter, who was still opening the boss room door, was caught off guard. Inside the boss room, the office of the Dark King. Hyun Harbin sat authoritatively on the throne, crossing his legs and arms with a disinterested look, asking about the item Chrysia was carrying. "Is that really the best you have?" In the hand of the King of Pride was a secret manual of the Dark King, a priceless grade item that allowed one to acquire a skill possessed by the Dark King. Sweating nervously, Chrysia replied, "Of course this is the best. You can even gain my abilities." However, with a suspicious look, Rabim asked why the item was so dirty, as if it hadn't been stored with care. Curious, Rabim asked if Chrysia at least had any good abilities, since she hadn't seen him use any. Chrysia was upset, since she was the one who hadn't allowed him to use any. He hadn't had time to use them. With nothing else to do, Hyun Harbin decided to trust him and took the book. Since she was very busy, she put the book in her inventory. She didn't want to meet up with the dungeon raid group. Thinking about going back to watch her dramas, Hyun Harbin grabbed her phone. She discovered that there was no internet signal inside the dungeon. Annoyed, she started to complain, remembering that at least at the dungeon entrance there was some signal, even if it was weak. While watching the girl complain, Carisia wondered when she would leave. Curious, the protagonist asked the King of Pride, "Carisia, do you have any item that lets you use Wi-Fi or mobile data inside the dungeon? That would be useful. I'm desperate for it right now." However, the boar-faced monster didn't even know what she was talking about. With no other choice, Harbin decided to just check after leaving the dungeon, so she looked for the error portal. As soon as she said goodbye, Carisia bowed her head at a 90-degree angle, shouting, "Have a safe trip." Just as Hyun Harbin was about to leave the dungeon through the error portal, she heard a noise. Both she and Carisia were startled when an explosion came from the door. Hyun Harbin screamed in shock, and a powerful shockwave hit her. However, it didn't cause any harm. She was stunned when she looked at the door and saw someone. Has the attack team already arrived? The burst of energy that occurred pulled all the members of the Caligus Guild into the boss room. Coughing, Hwang Maro asked what was going on. The mage beside him looked around anxiously. "This is the boss room. We're in the boss room now." Hyun Harbin, hiding behind the boss's desk, covered her mouth to keep quiet. She was worried that she had almost been caught. Glancing out of the corner of her eye, she saw the Caligus team and wondered why they were already there. Wanting to get out of there quickly, Harbin spotted a glitch on the floor nearby. However, before she could go through the glitch portal, she heard a man shout, "Where is Tae-seo?" The mage revealed that he thought that bastard Tae-seo had planned to throw them into the boss room, knowing they were after him. Worried, the masked man asked Hwang Maro what they should do. They couldn't believe that instead of trapping Tae-seo, they were the ones who had fallen into a trap. Suddenly, a woman's dark voice echoed throughout the boss room. "Say that again. So you all are monsters worse than the boss here, aren't you?" Everyone turned to see a woman rising from behind the table. With an intimidating look, Hyun Harbin questioned who they were trying to get rid of. The boss room was closed, and outside, Tae-seo let out a sigh. It really happened just as expected. He had been hearing the others' discontent with him for a long time. Looking at the door, Tae-seo wondered if this was really what they had planned. The leader of the Caligus Guild had already faced numerous betrayals. Over the past 5 years, he had gotten used to it. Betrayal, envy, people trying to use him. Ignoring everything that had happened, Tae-seo opened the skill window. He had 2 abilities. Position Swap, which exchanged his current position with that of an ally or enemy, and Mirror Shadow, which reflected the damage received back to the attacker. With the combo of these 2 abilities, Tae-seo gave those who attacked him exactly what they deserved. To him, it was 2 birds with a single cage. He could wipe out the annoying factions that had formed within his guild. Clenching his fist furiously, Hyun Harbin demanded, "Say it again, who were you trying to attack?" Hwang Maro was shocked to see the girl standing in front of him. She was none other than the rookie that the hunter Tae-seo had brought to the final screen dungeon, his school friend or something like that. The masked man tried to warn Hwang Maro about the girl. She was the one who had fallen off the cliff. None of them could understand why she was there, and they turned the question to Hwang Maro, who knew even less. Furious, Hwang Maro pointed at Hyun Harbin. "So that's what happened. You were with Tae-seo from the very beginning." Harbin was confused, not understanding what she was being accused of. Furious, Hwang Maro accused her of having faked her fall into the abyss and waited for them there, plotting with Tae-seo to trap them in the boss room. Confused, Hyun Harbin asked why she would do such a thing. Ranting, Hwang Maro accidentally revealed everything. "Because you found out about our plan to betray him and decided to strike first." Maro's words served as a confession. "So you admit that you tried to attack him and called it an accident, right?" This time, Hwang Maro couldn't answer the question. Satisfied? Harbin smiled. However, her smile turned into a dark look, as intimidating as a sea of crimson aura. "You planned a betrayal and now you're acting like you're the victims?" Laughing, Maro asked what she could possibly do if it were true, since she was just a rookie. Hwang Maro knew all the top rankers in the country, and there was no one named Hyun Harbin. He knew that Tae-seo was in first place, followed by Chae-jis. Then came his brother Ji-sok, as well as Baek Na-myeon and Jun-hoin. After them, he was next 6th in the entire country. He was confident that there was no way someone unknown could be stronger than him. Arrogantly, he boasted, "Girl, you don't know the world. What you're planning won't work." Taking control of the situation, Hwang Maro called his companions to deal with the girl so they could go on to attack Tae-seo outside. Multiple energies surged forth and an explosion shot toward Hyun Harbin, engulfing her. The entire scene was destroyed, and confused by not seeing the girl, a mage asked if they had managed to get her. Hwang Maro grew furious when he saw the doubt in his eyes. Smoke filled the entire boss room, making it impossible to figure out what had happened. However, a voice emerged from within the smoke. "Are you done talking nonsense yet?" Hwang Maro and the others were shocked. Fear appeared in their eyes and their screams echoed through the boss room. Meanwhile, Crixia, the real boss, was hiding, afraid that the attacks might hit him by mistake. A few minutes later, Rabin, without even breaking a sweat, sighed. Having tied up the four who had threatened Kang Tae-seo's life, she asked the King of Pride what they should do. Looking closely at the four, Crixia asked if he should finish them off. Winking at Hyun Harbin, Crixia revealed some rather suspicious instruments. He was a professional at extracting information. While the four traitors trembled in fear, he smiled brightly. "I know every pain point, from the tips of the toes to the tips of the fingers." Hwang Maro cried out in fear, "Please, spare us. There are many people who depend on me. I have a family." Rabin was surprised, though sarcastically, "So now you care about someone else's life?" With a look that could make someone tremble to their bones, she stared Hwang Maro down as she bent over. "It's funny how you wanted to eliminate someone, but now you value life." Rabin swallowed hard, remembering how Tae-seo had lost his family and had no one left. Standing up, she stated, "Kang Tae-seo must have been hurt by that. Is that why he changed?" Those on the ground were surprised to hear the girl's questions and couldn't believe she was talking about the Kang Tae-seo they knew, rather than someone with the same name. In Hyun Harbin's mind, Kang Tae-seo was a poor little boy who cried about everything and needed her to protect him. That's why she declared, "He's my precious friend, you know." Hwang gritted his teeth, wondering when Kang Tae-seo had formed such a close friendship. He wouldn't have planned to go against Tae-seo if he had known about her existence. Furious, Hyun Harbin kept declaring, "I can't even skip work without him knowing, damn it." This time, the four of them were confused. Little by little, they began to accept the fate they were about to face. Hyun Harbin's aura, incredibly intimidating, made that clear. Her deep voice sent shivers down the four's spines. "I think you deserve something more than just a beating." Once again, the four of them screamed until they were out of breath. With her hand outstretched, holding her middle finger with her thumb, Rabin counted 1, 2, 3. On 3, she flicked her finger with tremendous force, unleashing her energy onto the forehead of the man in front of her. Hit on the forehead by the flick, he passed out. Seeing the man in such a pitiful state, Crixia made him drink a potion so he could get back up again. Approaching Hwang Maro, who had already taken a few of her flicks, Rabin asked how many hit points he had left. Hurriedly, Maro replied, 10, only 10. "If I get attacked again, I won't survive." To solve this problem, Rabin grabbed a healing potion, startling Hwang Maro, who would have rather not go on living. Laughing, Rabin scratched the back of his neck. "I'm not going to eliminate anyone. I like Tae-seo, but not enough to do that." Bending down to look at one of the men who had fallen to the ground, Rabin remarked that there was a big problem. Placing her hand on her chin, she thought out loud, "I ended up revealing myself because this was about Tae-seo, but if these guys go around talking about what they saw, I'm screwed." Zhao Zhao approached, mocking Hyun Harbin, who had revealed her identity on her own this time. Thinking of something, Rabin asked Crixia if he had any useful ability to solve the problem. The boar-faced monster was surprised and listened to Hyun Harbin's request. "I want something that can erase memories or a curse that prevents someone from revealing what happened." Crixia stated that it would be difficult to obtain something that could erase memories, but he did in fact have a curse that prevented people from revealing certain matters. As soon as Hyun Harbin asked what the name of the curse was, the King of Pride took on a menacing expression. "It's called Curse of Silence. It's a curse that the Dark King used to employ. If the cursed target tries to speak, write, or even remember the designated secret, they will suffer immense pain." Crixia stated that, with this curse, no one would be able to reveal what the girl wanted to keep hidden. Even so, Hyun Harbin was worried that they might somehow be able to remove the curse. Crixia then revealed that ancient curses could only be broken by sorcerers of the same level as the caster, meaning that people weaker than him would not be able to break them. This made Harbin worried, since someone stronger than him could show up. The worried comment made Crixia furious. "What's the problem? There isn't a single person stronger than me." At that very moment, he remembered what had happened 30 minutes earlier and how he had turned into a painting on the wall. He ended up looking at the same spot where he had been pinned and fell silent, trying to avoid being thrown there again. Rabin sighed, as she had no other choice. She would have to do it alone, something possible thanks to the secret tome Crixia had given her earlier. After Hyun Harbin resolved the whole problem, Crixia said her goodbyes. "Well, now I'll be heading to another floor." However, she looked at him with a curious gaze that made him freeze. Trembling, he asked what she was staring at so intently. Unexpectedly, she smiled, leaving Crixia confused by her words. "You really are a cool Dark King, aren't you? You offered to help me in everything. If I run into you on another floor, let's hang out. It was nice meeting you." The being of darkness didn't know how to react and, knowing he couldn't refuse, just lowered his boar face and nodded. Meanwhile, outside the boss room, Tae-seo was waiting. After 30 minutes, he figured that everyone who had been thrown inside had already been eliminated. Even though he didn't care about Hwang Maro's group, as the leader of the King Guild, Tae-seo couldn't let the guys from Solaris find out about Caligo's internal conflicts. Suddenly, a notification popped up in front of him, with celebratory balloons. An unexpected situation had occurred. The boss from the 26th floor has moved up to the 50th floor. The 26th floor will be considered cleared. Congratulations! Humanity has conquered the 26th floor for the first time. Tae-seo frowned, seeing the floor cleared so quickly and in such a strange way. He had never seen a boss monster relocation before. Wondering why this had happened, he opened the boss room door. Surprise appeared in his eyes when he saw what was inside. Hwang Maro and his group were on the floor, curled up like sleeping bags. The confusion in Tae-seo's mind grew enormous. He couldn't process what he was seeing. Suddenly, a hurried shout came from the hallway behind him. Mr. Tae-seo, having rushed to the boss room so quickly that he was sweating, Jisok asked if everything was all right. He wanted to understand what had happened for the boss to reach the 50th floor, how they had managed to do it and so quickly, since his own group hadn't even made it to the secret room yet. While he was curiously asking what had happened, Jis-seok's group looked into the room. Seeing the four tied up on the floor, Jis-seok asked what had happened. Tae-seo was quick-witted and gave a brief answer. The boss was stronger than we thought. Changing the subject, Tae-seo asked if they should check on the girl who had fallen. Finally, Jis-seok remembered Hyun Harbin. Jis-seok apologized to his team, saying he would go after the girl who had fallen into the abyss because he knew her. One of his companions went with him. Staying behind, a woman from the Solaris Guild showed her relief that the battle was over and nodded at her vice, leader's instructions. Watching the four leave, Tae-seo was left alone once again. This way, he was able to enter the boss's hall to check what had happened. On one of the bookshelves, there was a candelabrum with a few candles. When he touched the candelabrum, Tae-seo used a skill, Shadow Resurrection. The shadow cast by the candles began to move and, together with their light, transformed into a sphere of fire and shadows under the Awakened One's command. In this way, he found out what he wanted to know. In the outside world, news of the clearing of the 26th floor was spreading, becoming the fastest clear in history. On a television program, a journalist explained that, normally, the final screen's floors took anywhere from 3 days to a month to be cleared, but this time it had only taken a few hours. One of the people on the show stated that this must be because the boss wasn't defeated. A young man holding an information card confirmed the question. Apparently, that's the strangest part. They say this is the first time the boss has moved to the 50th floor. This is an unprecedented event. After watching the news, a young man sitting at his office desk turned off the television. Tae-seo was still confused. Even after so much investigation, he still hadn't figured out what had happened in the boss room. He tried to question Hwang Maro, but every time he tried to speak, a powerful energy surrounded him, preventing him from uttering even a single word. His screams were desperate, frightening even Tae-seo. Seeing this happen, Tae-seo asked an awakened researcher if he knew what had happened to Hwang Maro. To the bald awakened, that must have been the effect of the Dark King's curse. However, he revealed that they couldn't remove it, as this was a curse that went beyond human powers. Upon discovering that the Dark King had deliberately cursed the four of them, Tae-seo wondered why. After thinking for so long, he used one of his abilities, Shadow Resurrection, which gave life to a specific shadow so he could summon it. In his hand, a dark energy formed the very shadow he had taken from the boss's room. He spoke directly to it. "You are the shadow that was in the Dark King's office, right? So you must have seen what happened. Tell us what really happened in that place." The small black cloud that Tae-seo created picked up a pen and immediately began to scribble. Tae-seo was surprised and confused by the result. A crude drawing of a woman with a sword. Under the shadow's instruction, he looked at the sword. The small somber blob was trying to warn him to look carefully at the drawing it had made of Harbin. However, by not listening to the being he created, Tae-seo had to exert himself. The shadow completed its drawing, adding the men who had been tied up. Seeing that Tae-seo didn't even understand something so simple, the dark cloud became extremely irritated, cursing him. Tae-seo tried to imagine a woman holding a sword. There were a few who matched such a description among the skilled swordswoman hunters. Some even in the conquest team, but all with perfect alibis. Someone coming from outside should have been seen by the standby team, which made Tae-seo wonder if there were variables in the tower. In the midst of his thoughts, he heard his cell phone ring. The person who had messaged Tae-seo congratulated him and sent some chicken thighs as a gift. The sword spirit sensed Hyun Harbin's sigh of worry. Lying on the sofa, she imagined that the shock for Tae-seo must have been great due to the betrayal. Being grateful to her friend, she wanted to keep in touch and check how he was doing. At that moment, someone entered her house complaining, "You're interfering with your friend's training and you're still grateful." Worried, Jisuk questioned how long she would be skipping training. Placing the coffee cups on the living room table, he had to hear from Harbin that she was sick. However, he didn't believe it because she was actually visiting his house lying on his sofa. Claiming to be sick, Harbin demanded that he feed her, which made him even angrier. "You already ate 3 servings of pork ribs as soon as you arrived at my house. Don't lie down all day after eating." While they were fighting and Jiseon even confiscated her portable console, the sword spirit Ahizar tried to avoid getting involved in the fight and read his novels. However, after being bitten on the head by Harbin, Jiseon sought the spirit's help, but he ignored him, yelling, "I finally got a gotcha ticket!" Reeb had gone to the inventory home to avoid so much noise, which continued until Jiseon gave up. Curious to know what Ahizar was doing, Harbin replied to Jiseon that the spirit was participating in paid events to be able to read more web novels. Ahizar deeply wished his ticket would bring him a fortune, but his eyes popped out when he only got 100 coins. Crying, he wondered how long it would take to finish his series, as 100 coins only unlocked a new episode. Jiseok was worried, but Harbin stated that Jajal was already an adult and had to take care of his own problems. Unexpectedly, Jiseok picked up a card and, pitying Jajal, handed it over. As soon as he took care of the Ahizar sword problem, he sat next to Harbin again. Curious about how much she liked what she was playing, he heard Hyun Harbin affirm that it was a completely new world. Trying to get closer to Harbin, he allowed her, "You can come visit me more often too." She asked what he was talking about and, avoiding blushing, he replied, "If you want, you can stop by more frequently." Quickly changing the subject, Harbin questioned how much his house was worth. This frustrated Jiseok. Hearing such a question for the first time, he ended up revealing that he didn't know the price, as his sister had bought it. Upon hearing about the Solaris Guildmaster, Harbin asked if that was why there was an entrance to a basement in the residence. Jiseok was shocked by the question and turned to look at the young woman. Somberly, he couldn't believe the question, as that space had been perfectly created so that no one would detect the secret entrance. Feigning misunderstanding, Jiseok asked, "A basement?" Hyun Harbin observed his expression curiously. She had only noticed the entrance by using her error vision, but now she discovered that there were many more secrets than she imagined. Using her acting skills, Harbin exclaimed, "This won't do, Mr. Che. A basement that the house owner doesn't know about is wrong. We need to confront the construction company." Harbin hurriedly ran to where she had sensed the entrance was located, too fast for Jiseon to stop her. Upon lifting the rug, she found a mana detector stone. She then infused mana into the device, which began to change the arrangement of the living room floor. While Jiseon slapped his own face, Harbin looked amazed at what she saw. The floor opened up, revealing the magnificent basement. Jiseon allowed her to enter, since she had already discovered it anyway. Giant machines and robots worked underground. There, a multi-story factory was taking shape. The secret base impressed Jajal. Harbin felt like they were inside a movie. Jiseon revealed that no one knew about the place, only his sister, him, and the secretary due to confidentiality. Asking if the place didn't look cool, Jiseon was afraid that his sister would scold him for letting someone discover the place. It was at that moment that a woman's voice emerged. "Do we have a guest? I told you not to enter the lab without permission for now." Jiseok was startled as he looked up and saw his sister. Surprised, Harbin also looked at her. Taking off her glasses, the young woman with hair golden like sunflowers introduced herself. "Miss Harbin, I've heard a lot about you. Nice to meet you." Sweating in fear, Jiseok quickly blamed Harbin for finding the place. However, his sister didn't care for his words. "Jiseok, when you do something wrong, an apology comes first." Before Jiseok could realize it, something had already hit him on the head. Even to Harbin's eyes, the attack was missed, and she looked to the side, confused. Seeing Mr. Che on the floor, she asked worriedly if he was still alive. With a somber look, she questioned, "So, what's going to happen to my training?" Che Jiseok quickly got up. Furious, he argued with his sister. "Why would you throw something at your brother's head?" Chai Jisi revealed a new weapon, a healing weapon that alleviated fatigue. Recalling that her brother had said he had migraines, Jisi asked how he felt now. Raising the weapon, she smiled. "Don't you feel much better now?" With the same smile, she held her brother's shoulders, affirming that, as his sister, she worried about him. Jiseok looked a little surprised and awkward. However, fear soon swept over him when Jisi looked at him coldly. "I clearly told you not to enter without permission, but you even brought a guest with you. That's why I thought you must have problems in your head. How are you now?" Harbin quickly agreed with the young woman. "Mr. Che is the one who's wrong." After Jiseok apologized, Jisei presented the facilities where weapons effective against monsters were developed. Harbin was confused, as Jisei's class wasn't that of a constructor but a priestess. While snacking, Harbin asked how she developed so many things. Jisei then revealed that she had used precognition abilities to steal technologies from the future and develop them. The shock of what she heard was so great that Harbin was left speechless. However, Jisei revealed that she did not distribute such inventions. "To avoid stealing credit for other inventions, I only use all the technology myself." They imagined that if another person had the power they possessed, the world could be quite different, for better or for worse. While listening, Habin ended up looking downcast. She recalled an interview she had seen on television about Chai Jisi, the genius inventor and richest hunter. Many were curious, so the host asked what she planned to do with all the accumulated money. Without any worries, Jisi had answered the question, "I want to protect daily life." She reminded everyone that defeating monsters was not the most important thing. Sleeping, eating, and living with precious people, those were the things that needed to be protected to be able to say that the world had been protected properly. Surrounded by warmth, Jisi's words comforted everyone who heard her. The thought of a hunter who didn't save the world, but daily life, awakened something different in Habin. Habin discovered that Jisi had directly established a social assistance foundation, giving her full support to people who suffered due to the gate incident, and she was one of the beneficiaries. Without such help, Habin believed she would have given up on everything. Having read Habin's thoughts, even Jajal was impressed. Now seeing things clearly, Habin smiled slightly. Not just saving the world, but daily life was a quite memorable goal for life. Habin was roused by Jisi's comment, who stated that they had tried hard to recruit her. Habin ended up feeling Jisi's soft hand wiping her cheek, and gazing at her gently, Chai Jisi invited her. "Would you join the Solaris Guild? We would treat you very well." Seeing Chai Jisi so close to her, Habin felt chills. Jisok celebrated how well his sister was doing in the recruitment. Habin ended up lowering her head, complaining quietly, "I really like you a lot, sister, but making such a direct proposal like this, isn't that cheating?" Smiling brightly, Jisi complimented Habin's way of speaking, but her smile was replaced by a look of surprise when she heard the girl say that it was precisely for that reason that she couldn't join her guild. Jaseon was also confused and asked why. Habin stated that she couldn't make someone like Jisi her boss, wanting to maintain their friendship. Hearing the reason, Jisi felt a little touched and accepted the young woman's decision. Jaseon was surprised by his sister and quickly questioned her mentally as they shared thoughts. "What do you mean? Didn't you say we needed to recruit her no matter what?" With a serious look, Jisi stated that they would change their plans. Changing her proposal, she suggested with a gentle look, "How about we become sisters?" Blushing, Habin imagined herself being Jisi's younger sister. Excitedly, Jisi claimed to know many movies and good restaurants. She extended her hand charmingly, making the invitation to go out together. Habin felt she was standing before the sun. That was the true light. Upon returning home, Habin was still impressed. She had even gotten Jisi's private number. Now that she had the time and money to go to a rich buffet with Jisi, Habin celebrated happily. Jajal didn't understand why she liked Jisi so much, and Habin scolded him, reminding him that the senior was her benefactor. While putting clothes in the wash, Habin imagined she should buy some new ones. Jajal also encouraged her to throw away some old clothes. Habin didn't believe she had bad clothes to discard, but Jajal showed her the outfit she was holding at that moment. Dirty and torn, it was no better than a floor rag. Habin didn't understand why Jajal was making a fuss about throwing away clothes, but soon she noticed something. Jajal was confused by Habin's sudden change of expression, who, looking at the clothes in the basket, remembered the past. The shirt she was holding had been a gift from her mother, who had chosen it especially because she knew she liked sky blue. She could see herself around the house with her mother, and how she was treated so specially. Faced with these memories, she commented with a sigh, "The passage of time is scary." The image of her mother's face was, with time, being blurred. It had only been 5 years, but the memories were gradually fading. This left her with a fear. Will I ever forget them? Seeing Habin's memories, Jajal understood why she hadn't thrown away those clothes. Looking down, she complained, "Sharing thoughts is really annoying. You should learn to pretend you don't see certain things, Jajal." Time passed, and upon changing clothes, Habin put on a hat and grabbed a bag. Wearing that same shabby outfit, she called Jajal. "Let's go now. We'll be able to come back quickly." Looking at the time, she declared, "I can choose clothes by myself now." The duo headed to the mall, a place the spiritual being found quite comfortable. There were several clothing stores everywhere, which made Jajal confront the girl. "Didn't you say we'd be quick? Why have you been walking around for 2 hours without entering any store?" Smiling, Habin commented that his patience seemed short. Diligently, he stated that the foundation of swordsmanship was patience, something he possessed and that never bored him. Habin revealed that she hadn't bought anything because she couldn't find the type of clothes she liked anywhere. Jajal asked if she had something in mind. Taking the elevator, she revealed that among the clothes she had seen with her brother, there were those that were super light, cozy, and soft. She knew the material had been produced by the luxury department store for hunters. This time, Habin wanted to go there as a customer. Having worked as a carrier, Habin revealed to Jajal that she had worked at the location a few times. The luxury department store exclusive to hunters was a place where the highest prices were seen. Normal people couldn't even enter, as it was reserved especially for high-level VIPs. In this place, the youngest salesperson, the confident Cheon Sarah, worked. She was the super rookie with the best performance in the department store, to the point of remembering the face and preference of every customer, which guaranteed her many favors. She remembered which clothes old company presidents were interested in, just as she treated young hunters as if she were a huge fan. Thanks to this, important clients esteemed her highly and her performance skyrocketed. However, breaking the young woman's happiness, another salesperson approached. Sarah, it's always good to pay attention to common customers. I'd like you to follow the manual. The person who spoke was her colleague Yoo Ji-hee. Yoo Ji-hee reminded her that the manual said to never judge a customer's purchasing power by appearance. Feeling that her colleague was feeling inferior or complaining about her place, Sarah arrogantly stated that she had never done anything against customers. However, internally, Sarah only wanted to deal with big clients, something much more efficient than wasting time with common people. Arrogantly, she believed her colleague was frustrated for being inferior, despite being in a position above hers. Suddenly, someone interrupted the two. Sarah looked at the new customer and thought internally, "Did you save money to buy presents for your parents?" Seeing the girl in clothes so ragged that no one could tell where they came from, she didn't want to serve her. Ji-hee then stepped forward. "Hello, customer. This is a department exclusive to hunters. You need a license to enter. Is it okay if I check it?" At that moment, Sarah interrupted her, claiming to know the girl. She quickly said, "The warehouse is that way. You're a stalker, aren't you?" Harbin was surprised by how she was treated and by being recognized. She then corrected, "I didn't come as a stalker today." Yoo Ji-hee observed the cold way Sarah treated the girl who claimed to be there as a customer. Sarah smiled mockingly and questioned, "A customer? Then you have a license, right? Do you know what department this is?" Harbin felt the hostility in Sarah's voice, who was quickly reprimanded by Jae-hee. Jae-hee apologized to the young woman. Sarah hasn't been here for long, so she made a mistake. Sarah was surprised by the senior's attitude, when she herself had already said the young woman was a stalker. Asking if what they called a license was what was in her hand, Harbin showed the rank a trainee card she had obtained. Sarah was speechless, unable to believe what was before her eyes, to the point of questioning, "Is that license really yours?" Yoo Ji-hee quickly tried to control her. "Cheon Sarah! What kind of rudeness are you showing the customer?" Ji-hee apologized again, stating that such a mistake would never happen again. Under Sarah's somber and incredulous gaze, Harbin asked if she would also need to show her ID, but Ji-hee handled the situation with elegance. Hearing that the young woman was looking for clothes made of cloudbird wool yarn, Ji-hee took her to a department. Showing only one clothes rack, Ji-hee stated that those were all the products from the line the young woman had requested. However, since those were the clothes her brother already wore, Harbin didn't think looking the same as him would be cool. Jajal found her thought quite strange, but Harbin stated that she didn't want her and her brother to be mistaken for a couple. Thus, Jae-hee took her to the Azure department, which also used the same material. There, she was able to show the young woman several pieces. Harbin was surprised to see the new clothes. Upon noticing a brown coat with a padded collar, she shouted, "This is totally my style." Ji-hee revealed that the person currently investing in Azure really liked the cloudbird wool yarn material, which excited Harbin because it matched something she appreciated. The salesperson also commented, "This clothing prevents pollution and has antibacterial effects." This surprised Harbin even more, as she wouldn't need to wash the coat frequently, since it wouldn't stink. Her eyes shone when she discovered that the clothes wouldn't smell bad, even if body fluids or blood soiled them. With an excited look, she gazed at the outfit, desiring it. Looking at the hangers, she asked if all of them were made with cloudbird wool yarn. As soon as the salesperson confirmed, the young woman declared with a smile, "I'll buy them all." Minutes later, Sarah was shocked to see Harbin again. The young woman was carrying numerous bags full of clothes, heading toward the payment counter. At that moment, a man ran toward her worriedly. "Cheon Sarah! I just received a call from the parking team. Hunter Che-Jees is coming to the luxury department right now." Upon hearing that the Solaris leader was arriving, Sarah was shocked. The man quickly asked what they should do, as it was their first time dealing with someone so important. However, he was surprised to hear that Sarah would take care of everything. Sarah had heard that Yeezy had acquired and operated numerous department stores. She immensely wished that Yeezy would get on her knees and beg her to work in one of her stores. This made Sarah internally mock Ji-hee. "You can keep first place in sales this time. I'm going to abandon this dump and go somewhere much bigger." The next instant, Sarah's eyes lit up upon hearing that Che-Jeezy had arrived. Smiling maliciously, she declared internally with confidence, "I'll show the true skills of how to serve a customer." Letting her long golden hair shine, Jeezy tucked it behind her ear as she entered the department. Sarah hurriedly walked towards Che-Jeezy. However, over Sarah's shoulder, Jeezy recognized someone and called out, "Harbin!" The protagonist turned around upon hearing her own name called. Discovering that the customer she had belittled knew Che-Jeezy and even called her sister, Sarah fell into a bottomless pit. GC smiled brightly, waving at Harbin. Under Sarah's shaken gaze, the two greeted each other. GC seemed extremely happy to find Harbin. Poking the young woman's cheek, she commented, "I was just passing by and I ended up running into Harbin. Could it be destiny?" GC asked Harbin if she had found anything she liked, and excitedly Harbin called for the salesperson who attended her. Jihee smiled brightly as she joined the two. Hunter Hyun Harbin has excellent taste. It was extremely easy to guide her. Sarah gritted her teeth when she saw how that person was an acquaintance of GC. Listening to the conversation, she realized that Harbin said she wanted clothes with cloudbird wool yarn materials and that at first they had said they didn't have them. GC seemed surprised by the comment, but Harbin quickly affirmed that the salesperson Yoo Ji-hee showed that they did have the pieces. She praised the salesperson, who acted humbly. This person seems to be the best at knowing things around here, doesn't she? Seeing that Chai GC had decided to buy with Yoo Ji-hee, Sarah gritted her teeth, blaming herself. Curiously, GC asked if she could take a look at Harbin's shopping bag. Upon opening the bag, GC saw the clothes the young woman had bought and ended up commenting, "The contents are very easy to see." She then turned to the other salesperson, asking her name. Seeing Chai GC address her, Sarah introduced herself, stammering. GC walked up to her, questioning, "Did salesperson Cheon Sarah happen to say that you didn't have any cloudbird wool yarn clothes?" Lowering her head, Sarah confirmed. GC questioned why, since cloudbird wool yarn pieces were a high-quality line specially managed by any luxury department. "If you knew that, aren't you unqualified as a salesperson?" Sarah tried to come up with some excuses, but GC's voice was grave. "Did you know or not?" Somberly, she did not deny it. Pressing the petty salesperson with her gaze, GC asked another question. "Why did you lie?" Knowing she was in a bind, Sarah swallowed hard. Immediately, she ran up to Harbin, bowing. "Hunter Hyun Harbin, I sincerely apologize. I thought you were a stalker and made a mistake. I failed to recognize you. I am truly sorry." Unexpectedly, Harbin asked, "But I was a stalker, wasn't I?" Confused, Sarah looked at her, hearing the girl state, "You didn't fail to recognize me. You saw correctly. But does that mean you could ignore me if I were a stalker?" Sarah tried hurriedly to fix the situation, but the young woman gave her no chance, questioning, "Why were you looking down on my old job?" Head down, Harbin remembered the past once more. While cleaning, she sighed, tired, but soon someone hurried her to leave. Those days were quite difficult. For a family that might one day return, to protect her home and her memories, and even to get her daily meals. Strongly, Harbin affirmed, "I never thought such jobs were shameful or something to be looked down upon, but it must be the opposite for salesperson Cheon Sarah, isn't it?" Later that day, Jisuk found his sister and, upon hearing the story, asked what happened next. GC stated that they had received an apology, and when she casually mentioned that she would report the incident to the department store representative, they said they would reorganize things on their own. Changing the subject, Jiseok asked why Harbin had bought all the clothes at Azure, as it coincidentally was the brand his sister was investigating. GC was also surprised. There was a peculiar investor she was looking into, who had personally invested in Azure. Curious, Jiseok asked what kind of person the investor was. Eating her ice cream, GC revealed that she didn't know exactly, as it was an anonymous investor, but the person was so good at investing that it had caught her attention. Jiseok was shocked by what his sister affirmed, as such a person could not be just anyone. For GC, there was a possibility that such a person possessed great foresight abilities, or even was someone who came back in time. Laughing, Jiseok did not believe the latter possibility. Suddenly, they heard Harbin shout in the living room, "It's a masked wizard!" Surprised to see the girl reveal his presence, he questioned what she was talking about. Upon looking at the television and seeing Mr. Pides, Jisuk saw the young woman declare, "That masked man is wearing the same clothes as me." GC stopped her ice cream, looking intently at the television until she commented, "Are they couple clothes?" Harbin was startled by GC's comment, as was Jiseok. "What are you talking about?" Confused, GC asked what the problem was with matching clothes with Pides. Irritated, Harbin affirmed that it made her uncomfortable, and blushing, Jiseok declared that there were many other identical clothes. "They are not a couple." Changing the subject, he curiously asked Harbin why she felt uncomfortable. Enjoying the snacks, she only affirmed that Pides seemed suspicious. She ended up commenting, "Every time I see that mask, I feel a strange familiarity and a feeling of betrayal. Someday I will definitely rip that mask off." Later that day, Pides received the notification that Caligo and Solaris had conquered the 26th floor. Surprised, Pides asked him to repeat it. The man with the report affirmed that they said it was the fastest conquest in history and that the boss had fled to another floor. Seeing how nothing made sense, Pides stood up. "That's impossible." He knew who the boss of the 26th floor was. King Kriksha, one of the worst bosses humanity had faced. Curious, Neva asked why he was saying such a thing. He revealed to her that this was one of the kings that should only appear on the 50th floor. He recalled that before the regression, they couldn't get past that stage until Hyun Harbin stepped forward. He wondered what had changed this time. Contradictorily, he questioned why the future he knew was changing. Moving to the next topic, the target Pides had asked them to monitor, Hyun Harbin, the secretary revealed that she had appeared at the same dungeon scene. Hyun-su stood up once more, surprised. Behind the mask, he displayed his astonishment. He remembered his sister from his past life in front of the tower and associated it with the information he had just heard. Hyun-su immediately imagined that his sister might have conquered the 26th floor. In the current situation, the only hunters who could do such a thing were both her and him, but only with the hints he had gotten from his regression. He immediately asked the secretary what Harbin had done on the final screen, and he revealed, reading the report, she was walking near the entrance area as part of the support team, ended up falling down a cliff, but was fortunately rescued. Upon hearing that that was all, the spirit Naiva sighed in shock. She giggled while Hyun-su worriedly rested his face on the desk. If she was going to do such foolish things on the support team, why did she go there in the first place? The secretary claimed to have heard that she had gone to the team as a replacement for the training activities she hated to do. Surprised, Hyun-su questioned, so she went to the final screen dungeon to skip classes? Questioning what Harbin had done after that, he heard from the secretary that she was on medical leave, not going to the training center, and also skipping classes because she hated them. But while absent, she frequently visited the Solaris Guildmaster's house. As a dark air surrounded him due to frustration, Hyun-su had to listen to Naiva cackle in his ear. After a minute, he asked the secretary if he had found out what Hyun Harbin did when she went to the Solaris Guild leader's house. The secretary reminded him how the Solaris security was incredible, but affirmed that the young woman still hadn't joined Solaris and there was nothing else noteworthy, as the most recent news only said that she was shopping and hanging out with Chai Ji-se, appearing to have developed a good relationship between them. Thanking the collaborator for the good work, Hyun-su dismissed him. Finally taking off his mask, he sighed with weariness. He then wondered if all the time his sister spent fooling around could be an excuse. What if she's working behind the scenes? Naiva thought this was a very hopeful thought. She's just messing around. Why do you keep having expectations? Going crazy, Hyun-su asked if his sister was really doing nothing. However, he felt that something was different. Naiva advised him to ask Hyun Harbin herself. However, Hyun-su knew that wouldn't work, mainly because he wouldn't know what to say if she asked how he knew she was at the final screen dungeon. Naiva thought he could just say he heard it around, since there were many plausible excuses. Lying down on the sofa, he sighed and commented, changing the subject, "People really don't change easily. She still likes casual brands as always." Surprised, Naiva asked if the old Harbin also liked casual clothes, and that was why he had invested in them. Hyun-su revealed that before the regression, Hyun Harbin loved casual brands so much that he had to directly invest in them so they would develop. She bought dozens of bags of clothes whenever she went to the stores, which is why he planned to continue investing in them in the future. Leaving the topic of Hyun Harbin for after the meeting, he lay down to sleep for 30 minutes. Thus time passed at the company. Across the world, in a movie theater, Jiseon asked confusedly, "Lord Pides called us for a meeting?" GC, beside him, confirmed the information, and that the topic was the conquest of the 50th floor. Jiseon was surprised, as the most recently conquered floor had been the 26th. GC revealed that, according to Pides, there was a way to bypass all the other floors. While the siblings talked, Harbin was choosing a movie. Jajal, who had heard about the news of the 50th floor, hurriedly tried to convince her to join, but she quickly threw him away. With a somber look, she ordered, "Jajal, shut up. You need to fix your tact, got it?" While waiting for her, Jiseon asked if Harbin had already chosen the movie. However, she hurriedly revealed that she hadn't yet. "It was hard to choose when you had a movie theater at home," she shouted excitedly. "I was so surprised that my frozen shoulder was completely healed." Jajal's too! Leaving the sibling duo speechless, she also made Jajal cry for being treated like an old man. Worried, Harbin entered the topic the siblings were discussing. But shouldn't civilians be left out of SB's meetings? Having said that, Harbin hurriedly ran to the door to go to another room. Before they could stop her, Harbin had already disappeared after slamming the door. For Harbin, the masked wizard finding a way to reach the 50th floor made him very capable. Upon remembering the masked man, Jajal commented that he had heard that he had made a contract with Naiva, which made him a quite uncommon user. Having entered a random room, Harbin asked confusedly where they were. Upon looking at some certificates on the shelves, she imagined she was in Chai-Ji-se's room. There was a certificate awarded to the president of the jury of the International Young People's Simulated Judgment Competition. Harbin was surprised to discover that they were actually Jiseon's. He, coincidentally, opened the door to announce that they had finished talking. Surprised, Haben pointed to the certificates, asking if he was focusing on entering law school. Picking up a law book, Jiseon revealed that in the past he dreamed of being a prosecutor. Jejel found him admirable and appeared wanting to teach him some sword techniques. However, Haben contained him. He said prosecutor, not executioner. Looking at the Book of National Laws made Jiseon remember his passion from the past, but since the gates appeared before he entered university, having been accepted, he revealed that he couldn't register. With monsters destroying the world, there was no place for a prosecutor. Seeing his dream shaken, Haben looked at Jiseon with surprise. At that moment, Chae-ji-si placed her hand on her shoulder, affirming, "Our Jiseon, who once dreamed of being a fair prosecutor, is now the best rogue of this era, the solar thief." Quite ironic, isn't it? Ji-si excitedly asked her brother to dress up as a stylish phantom thief character, wearing a top hat and such, but blushing with embarrassment, he quickly refused. Haben interrupted them, commenting on how strange it was after thinking about the matter. Why is Mr. Che's job solar thief? Because he's from the rogue class. But among the rogue classes, I only know Mr. Che with a job that includes the word thief. If I had to point out special characteristics, it would be the precognition ability that he is hiding from everyone, but Sister GC is better at precognition abilities, right? Haben remembered that the reason was because GC was a priestess, and since Jiseon had no merit in that area, he had received the name of thief. He shouldn't have such a name without a reason. Having conjectured all this, Haben asked, "Maybe Mr. Che Jiseon has an ability to steal something?" Jiseon broke out in a cold sweat, wondering what he should do, and thought, if this is discovered too, it will be dangerous. Smiling gently, Jiseon felt that Haben had the talent for making people's hearts beat faster. Just by looking at Haben, he saw her as a young eagle who only wanted to play but didn't know how dangerous she was. At the same time, Jiseon's constellation began to attack, reminding him that if they were exposed, they would be finished, commanding him to do something. Haben paid attention when Jiseon began to speak. "Merits, of course there are. I specialize in acquiring information, you know?" Haben was gaping when he used a skill. With his piercing eyes, he created a pair of glasses, while commenting, "I'm not good at foresight, but I specialize in acquiring current information." While Haben asked if that was truly it, GC stepped forward, asking, "The word thief also sounds much better, doesn't it?" When questioned how, GC smiled, giving a thumbs up. "The class name sounds much milder compared to other names," she reminded them. "A thief spends less time in prison than someone who assaulted another person." Jiseon, frustrated, asked his sister what logic her statement made. As soon as GC reassured him, the expected happened. Haben agreed with her. Big sister is really wise. While GC was boasting, Jiseon felt like he was about to faint from mental exhaustion. He scratched his head as things had almost gone wrong. For the class, the Solar Thief, the name Thief provided him with the skill Piercing Eyes, but also the skill Brilliant Imitation. Being possible to imitate a skill, this imitation would be of an inferior level, depending on the relationship with the person who owned the skill. This was a skill he had never used before because he could only use it 3 times. If the opportunity required it, he could copy and use a skill from his sister, from Fides, or even from Tae-seo. This was a skill that would be problematic if discovered by others. Trying to end the subject, Jiseon asked his sister if she was going to the SPS meeting. Remembering the meeting, GC asked if Haben didn't want to accompany her, as she could meet Fides directly. Haben was surprised, and without knowing they were talking about him, Hyun-su, her brother, slept in silence. A few days later, the long-awaited big day arrived. In an auditorium, several people took their seats. Everyone knew there was a long way to go until they reached the 50th floor, which is why they praised Fides so much. Despite this, many believed that it was realistically impossible for there to be a path to the 50th floor. They commented among themselves, waiting to hear what Fides had to say. They also took the opportunity to discuss the mission they had received. Eliminate the Guardian of Deception. A woman with braids revealed to the man with an eye patch next to her that she had been investigating, but had found nothing. He was equally looking for the profitable reward. They wondered if the target was a monster or a human, thinking about what it would mean if it was a human. The mission was to eliminate someone of their own race. While a buzz spread, someone arrived at the meeting, greeting everyone. Upon arriving, GC was congratulated by many for conquering the 26th floor as the representative of Solaris. Seeing the subject they were commenting on, she was happy that she hadn't brought Haben with her. Haben had thought it would be too much trouble to travel just to see a masked wizard. Sitting down in her seat, GC greeted the person next to her with a smile. Tae-seo, who was looking at his phone, returned the greeting, but soon his attention returned to the cell phone. Hyun Harbin, who had sent a voucher to buy sweets, had congratulated him for conquering the 26th floor. While he wondered if Haben knew something, the black cloud tried to climb into his lap. However, he quickly tried to shove the spy cloud into his pocket. Thinking for a bit, he remembered the White Day festivity. That day at school, Haben had placed a lollipop on his desk and, claiming not to like sweets, offered it to him. He asked who had given her the candy, but she just replied that she had gotten it at home. Having nodded to the question about whether he liked sweets, Tae-seo started to receive sweets frequently from Haben from that day on. she seemed to find various excuses to give him sweets, such as him seeming tired or as a thank you. Harbin seemed to have a talent for instantaneously recognizing when someone was feeling bad. She found a brighter day and took people there. He felt how, in a gloomy and boring daily life, moments like snacks lifted morale. Now, many years later, Tae-seo saw Harbin giving him sweets through vouchers. He regretted that in the past he hadn't said anything. The gate incident had given him the chance to change things, but controversially, it had taken everything from Hyun Harbin, family and daily life. Tae-seo felt that his silence might be one of the reasons Hyun Harbin wouldn't join his guild. By clicking on the voucher, Tae-seo discovered that he could send a voucher back with a thank you message. He clicked on the option to express gratitude, and a small sticker with a pig appeared. Best gift. Kang Tae-seo was touched by Hyun Harbin's gift, a voucher for lollipops. Faced with the sticker, Kang Tae-seo sweated to the point of drenching his face, regretting it. At that moment, Kang Tae-seo's attention was drawn by someone who noticed Fides' presence. Shining like the sun, Fides had arrived at his own table, greeting everyone with a good afternoon. He thanked everyone for their presence, affirming that he imagined there were many questions about the topic of the meeting. However, before officially beginning, he stated that he had a brief announcement to make. Many people's attention was drawn by Fides' words. The mission to eliminate the Guardian, many must have received it. The target has not been discovered, but if someone has received this mission and is planning to carry it out, I advise you to stop. Some who had not received the mission were confused, but Fides concluded, anyone who thinks of going in search of the Guardian will face my intervention. Be aware that force and inevitable actions will be used in the process. With a sober air, he finished the advance warning. Hearing Fides' warning, many people stood up. They were genuinely angry to hear Fides state that he would forcibly suppress anyone who tried to complete the mission. A bald man slammed his hand on the table, shouting, "Isn't that a threat? Are you trying to monopolize the resurrection stones from the mission reward just for yourself?" Hyun-su realized he had been too lenient with everyone. Beside him, Naiva snorted, "If you're too nice, they'll think you're someone easy to bully." Sighing, Hyun-su felt, in moments like these, a longing for his sister who was called the crazy dog in his past life. He recalled that, on that day, raising her hand and filling it with power, Hyun Harbin had slammed the table, causing a shockwave that completely destroyed the entire building they were in. Turning the air red due to her overwhelming energy, she had asserted, "Yes, the person the system is targeting is me." Amidst the destruction she caused, she announced, "Anyone who tries to attack me can come now." It was because of such a memory that Hyun-su had moved now. For despite being incredible, she was like the crazy dog that owned the street. Curious, Naiva asked why he didn't try to do something like that someday. However, he didn't want to draw too much attention, as the current Hyun Harbin sought to hide her own identity. Pressing the button to speak again, he stated, "Some of you may have misunderstood, but I won't explain. I'm not proposing such a thing for personal reasons. Why do you all believe that missions naturally must be fulfilled?" The bald man replied that a mission was a mission after all. However, this led Hyun-su to question, "Would you fulfill it even if the Guardian of Deception were an innocent civilian?" The bald man did not believe that the system would order them to attack an innocent civilian. A man next to him agreed, "We've never been wrong following missions until now, have we?" Seeing how everyone went against his words, Hyun-su questioned, "Then, if a mission to attack me appears, would you try to fulfill it without hesitation?" The man quickly tried to backtrack, claiming that Fides wouldn't be a target, but this was still a mission that provided 10 resurrection stones. They could use them to save someone more important than the mission target. At that moment, Hyun-su couldn't help but stand up. Holding the microphone, he asked in a cold voice, "Mr. Harley, would that really be okay? The Guardian of Deception is your son. Should I eliminate him immediately?" The man named Harley couldn't help but stammer, asking what he was saying. Irritated, he pounded the table, but Fides interrupted him. "Hearing Mr. Harley, that sounds like a good deal. Sacrificing your son to save several lives is quite fair, isn't it?" Harley couldn't take it anymore and screamed, "No! Not my son!" Hyun-su calmed the situation, stating that obviously Mr. Harley's son wasn't the Guardian of Deception, but that he knew who the Guardian was, and that person was an ordinary civilian. Thus he asked once more, "If this mission is completed, and then another elimination mission like this arises, will you fulfill it again for the rewards?" The bald man couldn't answer the question. Thus, Hyun-su concluded the matter, stating that from the beginning, this mission shouldn't even be discussed. At that moment, a woman raised her hand. "I agree with Mr. Fides." It was Chae Jisei who had spoken, affirming that she thought the mission should be ignored. The next moment, another person spoke up, Kang Tae-seo, affirming that the mission was wrong. When the meeting ended and people soon returned home, there was a small celebration because Fides got directly involved in the mission matter. While washing the dishes, Jiseon commented on how well everything had worked out for Harbin. However, Jisee startled him. Although Fides said he knows who the Guardian of Deception is, frightening her brother. Ji-se reassured him by stating that Pied seemed not to know the person exactly, as he had referred to the guardian of deception as an ordinary person. It was at that moment that the sibling pair jumped upon hearing a noise that startled them. Habin was in the living room ranting, "What does that taste like? Try to attack again. I'll take you out." Even only playing racing games, the young woman got heated. Seeing how the young woman acted, Jiseon couldn't help but state that PDs had made a mistake, as Habin could be anything but an ordinary person. Changing the subject, he asked what had happened regarding the 50th floor issue. GC revealed that, according to Pides, the 26th floor and the 50th were deeply connected, therefore there must be a magic that linked them. As they went to the table after finishing washing the dishes, Jiseon asked what would happen from there. Stating that there was a path from the 26th floor to the 50th, GC revealed that it couldn't transport many people, however, which is why only 10 elite members would be selected. Jisuk was shocked by the low number of people. Worried, he asked if his sister would be going. GC didn't deny it, only asked her brother to prepare her suitcase so she could travel for some research. While playing, Habin listened to the siblings talk. Deep thoughts ran through her mind. On the day of the exploration, GC went to the lab, and with holographic screens around her, she organized several things at once. Already past 6 o'clock, she realized she needed to leave soon. GC left the gate. Tired, she hoped to recover a bit before reaching the final screen dungeon. Just as she was about to ask her brother if he had prepared the suitcase, GC felt someone jump on top of her. She was surprised to be hugged by Habin. GC was surprised to see that the girl hadn't gone to the training center, and Jiseon revealed that such a dog-like loving girl stayed home more than she went to classes. Smiling, GC squeezed Habin's cheeks, joking, "Wow, Habin skipped training to see me? I wonder why you're so endearing." Worried about Habin skipping training, GC asked if she would do it if Jiseok were the one leaving. Changing the subject and seeing a large backpack the size of a person, GC asked why he had prepared so many things when her inventory was already full. He was worried because it was the 50th floor. Besides, since they were taking shortcuts, they didn't know what problems would arise. While Habin hugged GC with love, Jisuk looked away, so as not to reveal his concern, and asked, "Go and come back quickly. There's a lot of work without you." Secretary Junhui is really disappointed that the person who heals him will be leaving for a while. Habin also tried to remind GC of the promise that they would go to a buffet together. Hearing the young woman, GC remembered that they had many things to do together, which is why she affirmed that they would go when she returned. With a worried look, Habin nodded, and thus GC grabbed her backpack. Outside, GC asked the duo not to worry and to remember the famous saying. She recited it with a smile, "The path Chai Jisei chooses never fails." Still, Jisuk warned her, no matter how good your foresight abilities are, you can't predict everything. Be careful. Faced with such concern, GC sighed. Looking at the two, she declared, "With siblings supporting me like this, I have to come back no matter what." Thus, she opened the car door and said goodbye. "I'll be back." In a training room, the voice of a journalist announcing that humanity was going to conquer the 50th floor could be heard. On the cell phone broadcast, a young woman saw the most important hunters in the country, which caused concern for many people. Despite the anti-hunter organizations that were emerging, extremely different personalities had united for the 50th floor expedition, with Pides being the greatest influence on the group. Habin watched the news attentively and threatened, "If that masked guy doesn't bring my big sister back..." At that moment, an instructor appeared, arguing with Habin to get her back to training. However, a woman entered the training room, looking for Habin. Hearing that there was a call from the director's office, Habin was confused about why she was being summoned. On the way to the office, Habin tried to wonder who could be after her, but she couldn't think of anyone. Jajal guessed it might be a recruitment attempt, but they decided to find out when they arrived. As soon as Habin entered the room, a blonde man sighed, greeting her. "Long time no see." Confused, Habin questioned Jishok if he wasn't unable to mentor because of guild work. She also asked why he didn't just call her, instead of using the director's office for it. He revealed the reason. He needed the training center director's permission to guarantee her a certificate. Habin didn't believe that he, who always said they couldn't take shortcuts, was doing something like this. Standing up with a serious voice, Jiseok requested, "Let's go to Solaris first. It will be better to talk there." As he spoke, he showed a dejected expression. Jajal and Habin were dumbfounded when they arrived at Solaris. In front of the massive building, Jiseok realized that Habin had never been there before. Habin was so impressed that she looked around hastily. Smiling, Jiseok affirmed that she could see the place every day if she joined the guild. Gloomily, Habin immediately stepped away, refusing to be recruited. Leaving the jokes aside, they proceeded to the office of Jiseok, the vice guild leader. Habin was impressed by the room's lighting. The low ceiling, as well as the wide area with glass walls, made the office incredible. Seriously, Jiseok interrupted her. "Habin, I don't know how this sounds, but you can go to the 50th floor, right?" Habin was surprised, but he continued. "The room is soundproof. No one can hear what we say here, so to be honest, I need your help." Habin became quite confused and worried by Jiseok's words, who with a serious look pleaded, "Please, Send me to the 50th floor. Confused, Haben interrupted him, trying to understand, don't you have a constellation now? What's going on? Jajal was also quite curious. Ji-seok revealed that he and his sister had a joint contract with the constellation, but efficiency dropped compared to people who used a constellation only for themselves. For this reason, he asked the constellation to focus only on his sister and to return only if something happened to Ji-se. With crossed arms, Haben asked if nothing serious had happened yet. Downcast, Ji-seok replied, "That's what I believed, or at least tried to believe, until I discovered the letter my sister left behind." The day before, Ji-seok was working with Secretary Lee Junhui. The secretary was typing hastily, as there was no end to the work. Next to him, Ji-seok even handed him more demands all the time. The secretary listed some things he needed to do, such as drafting a budget for homes destroyed by monsters and organizing welfare projects, when even his own well-being was not up to par, ironically. With so many demands, he even thought about resigning, but Ji-seok cried to stop him from doing such a thing. "I'm going to offer you a salary increase. We'll have more people soon, so don't resign now." Demanding that he put the proposal in writing and that some bonuses be added, Lee Junhui returned to work, to Ji-seok's delight. However, it was while returning to a computer that Ji-seok found something. He discovered a file folder. There was nothing less than Ji-se's testament. Haben was shocked to hear Ji-seok. That had been a message left a few days ago by Ji-se. He and the secretary had found the will, which said that if she didn't return in 7 days, they should assume she would never come back. Ji-seok knew how his sister always prepared, but this time she had even organized manuals, documents, and the will. Worried, he knew that his sister must have judged the mission as dangerous. Seeing how Ji-seok was downcast, Haben understood what he wanted to do, follow his sister, but Haben still had some doubts. Given Ji-se's personality, Haben believed she wouldn't go on the expedition if she judged it dangerous. Instead, she would stop everyone. This made Haben believe that Ji-se was participating in the expedition because she thought it was worthwhile. The will might have only been left for a worst-case scenario, but still, Ji-seok couldn't help but worry. Jajal understood his feelings, which he found quite admirable. For that very reason, Ji-seok asked Haben for help. Agitated, he encouraged the young woman to go to the 50th floor. When Jajal was already annoying her with the insistence, she gave him a sharp look. Jajal fled as she pointed out some things. She wouldn't be able to send Chai Ji-seok to the 50th floor alone. Jajal raged when he saw that she was feigning till the end. Ji-seok, however, sighed, accepting her answer. He didn't want to force her, and resigned himself that one person alone wouldn't have the skills to do such a thing. However, Haben corrected him. "I said I couldn't send you there alone." Extending her hand, Haben created a skill window. The subspace entrance was active, allowing her to find accesses to subspaces. With the skill at its current level, she could include 2 companions on the journey. She then explained the skill to Ji-seok, who was gaping. Standing up, she announced, "To the final screen dungeon, 50th floor, we will be going together." After receiving Haben's explanations, Ji-seok trembled to the point of almost spilling the teapot. He asked just to be sure, "You can visit up to the 54th floor?" Ji-seok couldn't believe it and questioned her, "Are you even human?" While the two calmed down, Jajal smelled the great aroma of tea and came across Ji-seok bowing, thanking her for not eliminating him even after she discovered his secret. Annoyed at being treated like a monster, she yelled, "Do you think I look like someone who would attack another person so easily?" The two ended up staring at each other for a while, facing the ridiculous facts. When asked if she could really take him, Haben stated that she would need to try to be sure. However, that already left Ji-seok quite relieved. Haben thought about how much he worried about his family. She remembered how hard she had tried to look for her missing brother, but how everyone rejected the job because he had been gone for too long, or even belittled the price she wanted to pay. She had already experienced the feeling of asking for help and also the feeling of being rejected. Shaking her head, Haben buried those memories in the past. Ji-seok heard Haben confirm that she would help, and looking away, she asked him not to worry so much. Relieved, Ji-seok sighed, but soon saw something. Jajal teasing Haben, who was acting like a tsundere. Unexpectedly, Ji-seok ended up blushing. While rubbing his eye to erase any different thought, Haben questioned him about where they would go. As she needed to pack some things, Haben stated that she would return home. Ji-seok also needed to prepare, bringing potions and baggage. However, Haben didn't need that. She wanted something else, a portable power bank. Ji-seok was confused, wondering why she wanted a portable battery, but she continued to demand, drooling with hunger. "Since we're going out, we need to pack snacks and lunches and store everything in the inventory to recharge our energy when the time comes." Ji-seok frowned, stating that there wasn't enough space for so much. However, she reminded him of the food they had after training and that they couldn't run out. She then decided that she would store the food in her own inventory. Curious, he tried to ask why she also wanted the portable charger and was dumbfounded to hear that she wanted to charge her cell phone to watch movies when she was bored. Lost in thought, Haben even wondered if they should bring a mini projector. Leaving Haben to get excited about her movies, Ji-seok, worried, moved to organize some common supplies. Picking up some documents, Ji-seok stated that he would like to return the favor to Haben. Upon seeing the documents, the young woman asked what they were. Ji-seok revealed that it was the substitute training certificate. All the stamps were present and the date part was blank, so she could use it whenever she wanted. Haben was surprised by how much he had prepared. Proud, he stated that when he was willing to work, he did his best. Liking the deal, Haben affirmed that now it was worth talking to him. Before they left, Ji-seok wanted to have a word with the secretary, which confused Haben. He just wanted to leave things prepared because he didn't know how the trip would end. With Haben, Ji-seok went to Secretary Lee Junhui's office. On the desk, a pile of documents could be seen, papers flying everywhere. With a smile, he asked Ji-seok where he was. Despite the smile, the atmosphere was somber, as there were dozens of piles of documents scattered throughout the room. Ji-seok introduced Haben to the secretary, who also worked simultaneously as the manager of the Solaris branch in Gangbook. Curious about the girl with Ji-seok, the secretary asked if she was a new recruit, and while Ji-seok explained the situation, tired of seeing the papers, Haben wondered if she would need to work as hard as Lee Junhui if she joined Solaris. Remembering that Hyun Harbin was the person they were desperate to recruit, the secretary stood up to greet her. Hastily, he held Haben's hand. With a somber look, he pleaded, "Miss Hyun Harbin, since it has come to this, let me give you a tip as a senior. Never join Solaris just because you are a fan of Master Che Jise." Ji-seok hastily stepped between Haben and the secretary, sweating profusely. "What are you saying? We here follow all the laws about vacations and things like that." Ignoring Ji-seok's scandal, the secretary approached Haben to reveal that he had heard a lot about her. Picking up his coffee cup, the secretary addressed the vice guild master, asking if he wanted to say something. Ji-seok was surprised by the sudden question and, scratching his ear, looked away, trying to find the best words. The secretary soon challenged, "Why are you making an expression as if you had eaten something sour?" Haben questioned why Ji-seok was taking so long to speak, and made him reveal, even annoyed, "Haben and I are going to the 50th floor." The secretary asked when, and heard Ji-seok affirm that they would go the next day. Even while drinking his coffee, the secretary exuded a somber energy. In a sudden fit of rage, he knocked down the room door. The blow was so strong that notebooks flew, as well as random documents. Ji-seok fell silent, stepping in front of Haben to protect her. Apologizing for having gone too far, the secretary smiled, clenching his fist and asking, "You're not usually like this. Are you making such jokes that aren't funny?" The secretary raised his voice to prevent Ji-seok from escaping. With a stick, the secretary ran after him. Keeping a smile on his face, the secretary raged, "The guild leader isn't here and even the vice leader wants to leave? That means I'll be stuck with all the responsibility." Ji-seok, while running away, tried to remind the secretary that all urgent work had been finished, but he couldn't convince him. While the entire argument was happening, Haben sat down to watch. A few minutes later, the chase finally stopped. The secretary grabbed a pile of documents. Presenting the pile of papers, which was taller than himself, Lee Junhui asked the vice guild leader to approve them, as he didn't know their deadline. The secretary also demanded that Ji-seok listen carefully to everything he said. With a mocking look, he demanded, "You need to come back and stay with the guild master. You're going to do all this work. Do you really want to leave everything to me?" "I don't accept that." Seeing the secretary's final complaint, Haben asked if the discussion was over. She wanted to watch a little more, but Ji-seok was already crying. The next day, when they went to the office where the portal to the 50th floor was located, they saw several other people. Identity was verified and the visit of anyone passing through was registered there. Since the place was dangerous, it was necessary to carry a permit with legitimate purposes to enter. Since they were with the guild last time, they avoided the paperwork, but according to Ji-seok, they would need to go through it this time. Haben was worried that some document was missing, but smiling confidently, Ji-seok affirmed that the secretary had already taken care of everything. A few minutes later, the entry certificate was delivered and the passage confirmed. Haben was surprised, which was normal. The two then headed to the hall where the portal was located. They didn't linger and soon found themselves under the blue sky. In front of them was a large church illuminated by the sun, and in the distance, a Ferris wheel. In the center of all this stood an immense tower that stretched into the sky. A red glow appeared as a sword was conjured. Placing it on her shoulders, Haben asked if they should go straight ahead. However, Ji-seok calmed her down, stating that they would first go to the Solaris branch. Haben was surprised, but Ji-seok explained why. "The final screen is in international waters in the Pacific, so it's not a place we can easily enter and exit." Asking if she wanted to look around, he said he needed to pick up a work tablet at the branch. Haben was confused as to why, and Ji-seok soon remembered the secretary's shouts, who had demanded that he work even during the trip. Thus, Ji-seok left Haben behind as he went to the branch. At that moment, the young woman's stomach growled, and she wondered if she should start eating her ramens. Haben went to a convenience store where Jajal looked around curiously. He was impressed to see that the place had practically everything. Soon, Haben bought one of the ramens to eat right there. The seller unexpectedly recognized Hyun Harbin. The young woman was speechless upon recognizing him too. "You were the guy who loved coffee so much that you got a job at Starinius Cafe, but then were kicked out by corporate tyranny. My part-time co-worker from my carrier days, Park Won-do." Park Won-do smiled awkwardly, remembering how immature he had been working in a cafe just because he liked coffee. Jajal asked Haben who the young man was, and she revealed that he was a friend she had met when she worked as a carrier. Park Won-do always said he would work hard, earn money, and go back to college. Always close to him, Haben laughed at his jokes. He also knew that Haben worked to earn money and look for her brother, and had sworn he would help her. Working in destroyed constructions, both had their own goals and thus became friends. While preparing the ramen, Haben asked if he had gone back to college. Excitedly, he joined her, smiling as he affirmed that his dream had come true. After congratulating him, Haben also revealed that she had found her brother. Sighing, she recounted that he had lived a healthy and peaceful life the entire time without ever contacting her. Park Won-do thought that at least the situation was great, as both their goals had been achieved. Relieved, Haben realized that peaceful days had finally arrived. Thinking of something, she asked how he worked there, if normal people couldn't go to the island. Won-do revealed that he worked for a branch. There were many that hired people, even if they weren't hunters. Showing his ID, he explained that by working officially, it was possible to enter and exit the place. Since his friend was present, Won-do decided to take advantage for a moment and asked her to keep an eye on the cash register while he quickly went to the restroom. She told him to close the store to go, but, crying, he revealed that if he did that, the manager would be notified. Sighing, she demanded that at least she didn't have to pay for the ramen she had bought. The deal was made, and Park Won-do left. Continuing to eat, Haben wondered if she should go back to watching her series. Jajal was worried since she was supposed to look after the store, but there were no customers. Outside, however, someone watched Park Won-do leave the store and, with their group, contacted someone. "Boss, I confirmed that the part-time worker went to the restroom. There's only one girl in the store. Everything will be fine." The masked trio was ready to invade the store when they felt enveloped by a bloodthirsty energy. The fear was so great that their feet couldn't move. One of the assistants pointed out the situation to the group leader, who also couldn't move. They were facing the quiet intimidation ability. Even without openly launching a threat, the one who was stronger could intimidate opponents merely with their presence. The group that had arrived at the store began to tremble until they managed to force themselves to walk. The trio opened the glass door and entered the premises. Jajal quickly began to observe them and saw that they were filling their bags with the potions the store sold. Jajal shouted to Haben, warning her what was happening. However, the girl continued to eat, making him desperate. He was so desperate that he swore he would do something if she didn't react. Annoyed at being interrupted at an important moment, she stood up, walking toward the group. "You didn't pay for that, did you?" The group realized they had been discovered. Haben had planned to confront them when they were about to leave, but Jajal had rushed her. While still frightened, the masked figures looked back, stammering. Haben smiled at them, commenting, "Were you surprised?" Drawing her sword, the young woman used the intimidation ability, demanding that they show their backpacks. Haben pointed the sword at them before they could leave the convenience store. They tried to pretend to be innocent and shouted, "We are just customers. What are you doing? Are you suspecting us?" Hearing their complaints, she smiled gently. "So, you're customers? Let me help you finalize the payment." Before one of the men could realize, Haben had opened his backpack. Inside, she found many potions for the awakened and, checking the price on the cash register, announced, "That will be 74 million won." With a smile, she asked if they would be paying with a credit card. Annoyed, one of the thieves shouted, "You're a supporting character at best. What is this?" However, Haben cut him off. The crimson energy overflowing from the sword was terrifying. Pressuring them with such an aura, she continued, "I will help you with the payment. Do you have a loyalty card or any discount cards?" Having reached this situation, the bandits saw no choice but to try to intimidate her. They confronted her. "Aren't you afraid? We are affiliated with Minor Patch." Haben tried to remember what that was. Minor Patch was a large, stateless criminal organization formed by criminal hunters after the Gate incident. Remembering that Pades had worked hard to eliminate the group, Haben realized that he hadn't managed to capture everyone. Hearing the organization's name, Haben questioned whether they were saying they had gone to the store to steal things. Annoyed, the group leader confirmed, "That's right! Do you understand your situation now?" Understanding the situation, albeit slowly, Haben smiled at them. "Please be careful on the way to the police station." At that moment, a police officer arrived at the store, raising his gun. "Everyone put your hands up!" Before the trio could realize, they had already been handcuffed. Excuses didn't work. One of them even tried to claim that he had been threatened by the awakened who used a sword, but the police officer didn't care. The officer asked Haben if what they were saying was true, but she replied by playing an audio. "Aren't you afraid? We are affiliated with Minor Patch." Upon hearing their own voices, the trio realized they had fallen into a trap. The police quickly took the three away, while Park Won-do, who wasn't even there when everything happened, returned confused by what he saw. The police officer threw the trio into the car, taking them to the police station. Meanwhile, Jajal asked Haben when she had called the authorities. Haben revealed that there was a button for that on the counter. Jajal praised her, but Haben explained that she had done all sorts of part-time jobs to survive, which is why she knew how most things worked. Excited that Won-do had returned, she lifted her cell phone to watch her dramas again. However, at that moment, she received a call from Jae-seok. He was surprised to hear her answer immediately and asked her to go to the guild branch to talk. Haben yelled angrily, as she wanted to go back to watching in peace, which left Jae-seok confused, not knowing what had happened. On the other end of the call, he heard Haben shout, "Mr. Che is truly the most annoying!" Crying, he thought he hadn't done anything. The Solaris branch was located in a large building with dozens of floors. Curious, Jae-seok asked how they would enter the 50th floor. Calmly, Haben revealed that they just needed to find a loophole. She looked around the apartment and found a flaw in a corner of the room. Then she asked, "Do you want to use the Subspace entry skill?" Haben was surprised that such a thing worked even there, which confused Jae-seok. Speechless, he asked, "Are you saying that even from here you can enter the final screen without authorization?" Haben wasn't sure, but she thought so. Asking if they should just try to enter, she activated the Subspace portal. In front of them, a large portal appeared, the unknown Subspace. Haben looked at the information of her Subspace entry skill again and extended her hand to Jae-seok. Blushing slightly, he obeyed. Under Hyun Harbin's guidance, the two passed through the portal. Passing with his eyes closed, Jae-seok opened them on the inside. He was impressed to see several exit portals to different places, dungeons, apartments, even to Solaris. Curious, he touched one of the portals and a notification appeared. "Ahead is the 3rd floor of the final screen. Do you wish to enter?" Surprised, Jae-seok told Haben what had just appeared. Haben then asked if he could enter the portal. However, upon clicking the option to enter, he received an alert stating that he was not authorized. Jae-seok's comment made Haben believe that it was necessary to possess the Subspace entry skill to advance alone. Looking around, Jae-seok wondered if it was possible to move to all the spaces visible from there. If that were the case, they could even see the highest floor. Jae-seok then used one of his skills to project his spirit forward. He saw himself flying toward a light until he approached a golden portal. Jae-seok could see that that was the portal to the highest floor. However, at the same time, a big alert appeared for him. The warning, however, was corrupted, and he couldn't read the information behind it, besides realizing that apparently the word administrator could be formed. Surprised, Jae-seok received warnings that he was going beyond his authorization and that his skill would be forcibly cancelled. Unexpectedly, the glasses created by Jae-seok's skill shattered. With the skill broken, Jae-seok fell to his knees on the floor, feeling a strong headache. Haben rushed to him, asking how he was. Jae-seok revealed that this had happened while he was looking at the highest floor. Hearing the Vice Guild Master, Haben said she had already heard that trying to enter the highest floor made the administrator activate a kind of emergency mode. Imagining that there were many secrets on that floor, she looked at him gloomily. How ugly must the administrator's secrets be for Mr. Che to suffer so much? Changing the subject and returning to talk about the 50th floor, Haben opened her space to summon the small dragon Ribe. The dragon's blessing immediately drastically increased gravity resistance. With Ribe on her head, Haben affirmed, "We will go to the highest floor sooner or later, but now let's go find Big Sister." Thus, she grabbed Jae-seok's hand, pulling him into a portal, entering the final screen on the 50th floor, the Realm of Darkness. On the 50th floor, a barren land with mountains and dry soil. The conquest objective was simple: obtain the Dark Lord's ring. Having already seen dungeons and items related to this place, Jae-seok had never been there personally. He remembered that he had received an encyclopedia of this realm in a dungeon and searched his inventory. Soon he pulled out the item containing information about the realm and its monsters. Jajal seemed impressed. It had been a long time since he had heard of this place. Haben curiously asked if he knew the place, but Jajal had never visited it, only heard that it was the residence of dark beings, so they needed to be careful not to be discovered as humans. Jae-seok looked around while Jajal and Haben talked, and discovered the presence of a monster with sharp fangs, drooling as it stared at them. The Cerberus drooled from its 3 mouths as it walked toward them. Jae-seok was quick and attacked with his sword, which traveled and eliminated the 3-headed monster. Thus, he warned Haben that he thought they would draw too much attention if they stayed there. Thinking for a moment, Haben believed it it would be good to stay safe and asked for Jiseok's encyclopedia. Opening the book, she revealed she wanted to use a different skill this time. Discovering in the encyclopedia that the dark beings had colors similar to the world they were in, she extended the sword a Hezar, transforming it into a shadowy sword. She also sent Rybe into the inventory. While transforming Jiseok, two walking dark beings approached the location they were in. The two were startled to see the human and the woman with horns in front of them. The goblin screamed in fright, alerting several other beings in the vicinity. Seeing Habin's horns, Jiseok warned her that she had chosen the wrong dark being to disguise herself as. Confused, she asked what the problem was. The next instant, the monsters in the vicinity ran towards Habin and knelt before her. They all shouted in unison, "The Dark Lord has arrived!" Habin was shocked. In the encyclopedia in Jiseok's hands was the Lord of Greed that Habin had used a spell to look like. Red eyes, striped tattoos running from eyes to cheek, pointed ears and horns on the head. The goblins, imps, and other nearby beings paid their respects to Habin, unaware that she was human. She, who had not paid attention to the encyclopedia, was confused. She looked at Jiseok asking for an explanation. But Jiseok misunderstood her look. He immediately knelt before her, paying his respects just like the other beings. At that moment, a feminine voice emerged. "A dark king has graced my territory. I greet the king of greed. It is an honor to see you up close." While pulling Jiseok up by the collar, Habin looked at the woman approaching. Black dress, sweet eyes, pink hair, and horns on her head, Ipsine Ril Morphesia, daughter of the Manhwa family, offered her compliments to the supposed Dark Lord. Ipsine couldn't hold back, asking the Lord of Greed to allow her to serve her. Releasing Jiseok, Habin interrogated him, and then he revealed what he had seen in the book. Habin pointed to her own face that she had copied from the book, surprised. Is she that simple? Leaving the matter aside, Habin had been invited by Ipsine to visit her family's mansion, and wondered if she could get any information there. Thus, she let Ipsine guide them. A carriage appeared to take them, and during the trip, Jiseok focused on his book. Looking at Jiseok, Ipsine intended to ask who he was, but with a somber look, Habin interrupted her. "You don't need to know." Jiseok then whispered to Habin that, according to the encyclopedia, the King of Greed had an evil and greedy personality. She demanded everything she saw, so she should do so to avoid suspicion. Habin then heard Jiseok tell her to ask for the carriage. Habin executed the plan, calling out to Ipsine, who almost jumped upon hearing her name. "Yes, yes!" Is something uncomfortable? Habin repeated Jiseok's words. "This carriage is very beautiful. I want it very much." Ipsine began to cry upon hearing the request, remembering that the carriage was the only inheritance left by her deceased mother. With a gloomy look, Habin tried to warn Jiseok that she would be treated like garbage if she took something like that from someone. Even Jiseok treated her like garbage for trying to take someone's inherited carriage, even though he had suggested she do it. Habin quickly tried to change her story, reassuring Ipsine by saying that the carriage was desirable. That was all. Ipsine thanked her tremendously for being able to keep the carriage. "It is an honor to have you use my carriage. Thank you for everything." Wiping her tears, the young woman thanked her to the point of being moved. However, she was quickly interrupted, startled. With crossed arms, Habin stated arrogantly, "I don't need it. You can keep it." Thanking her, Ipsine asked what she could do to repay the gesture of kindness. Believing she hadn't shown enough greed, she raged, "Next time I will demand something even more impressive. Be prepared." Thus, they began to see a large castle in the distance. Habin's demands continued even after they arrived at Ipsine's mansion. A large banquet was served to her, but she even demanded drinks. In tears, Ipsine fetched a bottle that made her cry, an alcohol produced every 1,000 years by the family. Many maids were worried, as that was the housemaster's favorite alcohol. Believing that one of the dishes she was eating wasn't special, Habin changed her statement. "I like this dish." Ipsine immediately put her hand to her mouth, crying, "This is the dish that father loves." Once again, the maids began to gossip. Jiseok, however, praised her for being garbage, with Jejal supporting him. Ipsine felt uncomfortable with the situation. This made Habin sigh, asking what she wanted. Upon feeling Habin's gaze, however, Ipsine couldn't even speak and began to tremble. Recovering, the young woman asked, "You will also attend the auction held at the Dark Castle this time, right, Dark King? They say the Dark Lord's ring has appeared there." Jiseok, hearing the name of the ring, realized what item it was. He hurriedly stood up, trying to confirm the information. While returning to eat, Habin had the feeling that she had already heard of the item. But just like Jiseok, she soon realized that it was the condition for completing the conquest of the 50th floor. Jiseok quickly signaled for Habin to continue talking about the item. Thus, Habin asked Ipsine why she was curious about the auction. Cowering, the young woman claimed she had no intention of participating in the auction, only the ball that would happen before it, but she didn't even have anyone to accompany her. Downcast, she revealed her situation. "It's been a long time since my mother passed away, and my father also disappeared." Habin heard the young woman state that some relatives were trying to target the family leader position since she had no guardian. Haben didn't understand exactly what the young woman was saying, but being sure of what the Dark Lord's ring was, she knew she needed to go to the ball and the auction. Thus, Haben drew Ipseen's attention by gloomily declaring, "Are you asking me to be your guardian and take you to the ball?" With a frightened look, Ipseen realized her mistake. Hastily, she bowed, apologizing. "Please pretend you didn't hear that, my tongue slipped." Downcast, she blamed herself for not holding back her personal feelings. Raising a glass of wine, Haben declared, "Your invitation to this banquet messed up the path to the castle. So, guide me to the castle before the auction." Drinking, she stated that she would consider taking her to the ball on the way. Ipseen was surprised by the Dark Queen's words and, with an excited smile appearing on her face, thanked her immensely. Thus, she hastily asked the servants to bring more food. Seeing how Haben dealt with the situation, Jisuk smiled and didn't fail to praise her. "Good job." Time passed, and a maid guided Haben and her guests to a room where the latter would rest. Then she took Haben to another room, warning that she would be next door so she could be called at any time. Haben opened the door to the room and was faced with peculiar decoration. Red party balls were attached to the ceiling. Scented flowers had been placed in vases. In the room, a trail of candles that eventually formed a heart near the bed accompanied a banner. "We sincerely welcome you to our home." An incredulous look appeared on Haben's face, who couldn't believe what Ipseen had written, as she felt she was being proposed to. Leaving the large bed, she had the impression of being in a luxury hotel. Sitting on the bed, she realized it was extremely soft and was happy to have pretended to be a dark queen. Lying down, she celebrated free pass to the castle while receiving luxury hotel package service. Jajal had to agree on how beautiful and comfortable the big bed was. Sighing while resting, Haben remembered how her brother was traveling in Europe and thought she should also enjoy the trip. Jajal asked how she knew that, and Haben revealed, "Before coming here, I thought I should contact him to tell him I would be traveling." When she tried to do that, she was speechless. It was written on Hyun-su's profile that he was traveling through Europe. At the same time, Fiddis felt a chill. Worried, Ahizar asked if something had happened. Hyun-su only replied by saying that his nose had started to itch, but it had already passed. He did everything to maintain his dignity and avoid sneezing. Meanwhile, Jisuk left the room he had been given. He imagined he should formulate a strategy with Haben. Thinking about what they would do when they went to the castle, he knocked on her room door. He ended up opening the door, which was with the lights off, and discovered that Haben was simply watching a movie using a projector, having moved the bed to the center of the room and installed several speakers. Seeing the young woman eating snacks, Jisuk exclaimed, "Hyun Harbin, what is all this?" However, the girl only replied with one word, "Solemn." Seeing Haben immersed in a single series, Jisuk reprimanded her, but she revealed that she wanted to watch series even before. But Ipseen had interrupted her. "Our Ipseen took such good care of us, so now I can take the opportunity to watch what was postponed." Since the place was soundproof, Haben was able to talk calmly with Jisuk, who opened a shortcut window. He revealed that he would listen to the conversations between Ipseen and the servants, which confused Haben. Jisuk stated that although they had been treated well, there might be a trap ahead. From the inventory, Jisuk took 2 wireless headphones and a listening device. He revealed that he had placed the listening device on Ipseen during dinner, so they could hear what she was talking about. Haben was impressed and asked him to give her one of those cool spy tools. In the headphones, they heard Ipseen's voice. As expected, that person is not the king of greed. Jisuk was shocked to hear such a thing immediately, unable to believe that they had been discovered. Jajal was also surprised as Haben looked identical to Greed. Seeing Jisuk and Jajal cursing her personality, Haben irritably told them to be quiet. The maid with Ipseen asked why she thought such a thing. Ipseen, with a look full of affection, then stated, "There's no way to call her a dark king when she is so warm." The maid was confused as she thought Greed was quite cold and scary. Ipseen revealed she had seen the Queen of Greed as a child, and the feeling was different. Furthermore, even when she stumbled over words, the Queen of Greed she had just met understood and sympathized with her. The maid tried a last option. "That person possesses the aura of a dark king. Besides, there is no magic that can imitate them." However, Ipseen believed in a possibility. All the dark kings they encountered were only 7, however. There were 8 seats in total in the castle, one of them always empty. Picking up a book about such a being, she revealed the owner of the seat. The Dark Lord, the one who governed the entire realm of the Void. The maid was shocked to the point of putting her hands over her mouth. Ipseen stated with all her words, "I dare say that we are serving the legendary Dark Lord." Hearing Ipseen's conversation, the trio in the room fell silent. The misunderstanding was so great that it left them embarrassed. Haben ended up smiling melancholically. I pretended to be a king and now they are treating me like a deity? Ji-seok also smiled. Ipseen really is unstoppable. Changing the subject, Ji-seok asked, surprised, if Harbin's ability could really copy even the aura of a dark king, something that seemed impossible. However, the girl was already ignoring him, as she had returned to watching her series after realizing she had missed an important part while going through the espionage project. Harbin then reassured him, "Don't worry so much, Mr. Che. Isn't this actually good? If we go to the castle like this, we would meet the true king of greed. It would be troublesome and annoying, right?" Ji-seok ended up agreeing with her. That's when Harbin stated that it might be a good idea to change her costume while they were in this situation. Harbin then released her false image, leaving only the red eyes, and revealed her true self, commenting, "Now I am the dark divinity." If you enjoyed today's recap and want more manhwa content, subscribe to the channel. We're starting this journey now, and I hope that together we can strengthen this new community. So go ahead and like the video, comment for future parts, and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for joining us, and until next time.